Answer real quick.
What's going on, guys? We are live with Wesley Smith.
How's it going? Wait, yeah, there we
go. Yeah. Oh, he's so you're running for Missouri's 2nd Congressional District.
Yes, right? Yes, sir. Against Ann Wagner.
That was one of my big questions. I know she holds that seat now. I didn't know.
She's been holding the seat for about 9 years.
Okay. Yeah.
Her time's up. She voted against Trump on January 6th, and her time's limited. The Republican Party is very against her winning again. So right now we have that going on our side. So
sure.
We're kind of using that to help push the movement.
Sure, for sure. So, that was, I guess, answered a lot of my questions. I really didn't know that. So that was what I was going to ask. Is this something against her specifically, or just you want to get in and that's who happens to be there?
Yeah, well, so I didn't want to get in. I never wanted to be in politics. I never lived a life being groomed to be a politician. I was at an election party November 3rd, and I went to bed happy. I left the Elks Lodge in Festus, Crystal City. I went to bed happy. I was like, oh, man, we won. And the next morning, my mouth just dropped to the floor. Couldn't believe what just happened, right?
I don't think
and then we had a bunch of weak, cowardless, spineless congressmen that wouldn't stand up for what was right, to at least address the grievances of the American people.
Right.
At least conduct an election audit. That's all we wanted, right? That didn't happen, obviously. So with that being said, I was addressed by some people that wanted me to run for office. Like, I'm not gonna. I was like, no one's gonna vote for me. I just retired from the Army. I'm a nobody. No one's voting for me, right? So that's how it started, right? And I told them, I was like, if I'm running for office, I have a personal agenda, and the only agenda I have is to help veterans, because I don't want the next generation of warfighter to fight the same problems that this generation's fighting,
sure,
and the previous generations have fought. So that's my biggest agenda to push, is for veterans. Like I tell people all the time, like I tell McCloskey, who's running for Senate, I sat there and talked to him, and I told him, we don't need someone up there protecting the Second Amendment, because we need people to protect the Constitution. If they protect the Constitution, the Second Amendment is protected.
Sure.
So that's one of the big pushes for me running for Congress. I mean, I got a lot of stuff that I can go over, like our plan of action, if you want to hear it.
For sure. Yeah,
we got it. So one of the big pushes is, obviously, the 1996 crime bill from Bill Clinton, right? We have created a system in this country, a precedent, as you would say, in this country, to where we basically push criminals back into the system, almost forced. Now, I want to do a prison reform bill called the Prisoner Rights Reestablishment Bill, to basically give prisoners of nonviolent felonies their rights completely back. Their right to vote, their right to own firearms, and their right to have their record sealed. So that way, when they get pulled over for speeding or blowing through a stop sign, they're not automatically back in question for what they had done before. If they committed an offense and they were a debt to society, right?
Sure.
They paid their debt. They're paid their dues for society. That's according to our justice system, right?
Right.
I want them to have their rights back.
Yeah, I can get on board with that.
And I mean, it's anti-Republican of me to say that, but
sure,
it's what it is. These prisoners need to have their rights back, and they need to be addressed. So because really what it's doing is saving taxpayer funds. $83,000 a year to keep a prisoner in prison is ridiculous. So to pull someone over for speeding after they had a pound of marijuana on them 10 years ago is ridiculous.
Sure.
And then they go back in prison for what? Because they're already a felon?
Yeah, no, I can get on board with that. Big time.
And then I am very well liked throughout the, Missouri Firearms Coalition and Second Amendment preservation. And I'm all for that, but we need people to stand up for the Constitution in general. If we have people stand up for the Constitution, then we don't need people to be up there running specifically to protect the Second Amendment.
Sure. Yeah. No,
that's their duty. That was their sworn duty, is to protect the Constitution.
Yeah, I think we're far from that.
Yeah, we are.
Kind of a shame.
We're very far, which is what's messed up about it.
Yeah.
That was just one. That's one. Obviously, I'm pro-life, pro-gun, pro, border security. But another big issue is veterans. Veterans have it very tough in today's society, right? And Trump, he tried to push for it. He tried to push to reform the VA, and he was working on it. But Congress, and George Soros money, they don't like to go along with what's right. So, and I'll give you some statistics. So the VA reported that Vietnam veterans have 26% of Vietnam veterans had trouble adapting to civilian life. Well, Afghan and Iraqi war veterans have a 58% adapting. 58% of veterans who have trouble adapting to civilian life. Out of that 58% of veterans, 78% self-medicate with drug and alcohol abuse. So the only way we can fix that is to get someone inside that is willing to put in the work to fix the VA. And it's not just the VA, it's fixing it for all veterans, whatever system they're going through, because there's other veteran programs out there, that are other than the VA. But it just needs to be fixed in general.
Right. I know it seems like the VA has gotten it's done so poorly at what it was supposed to do that it almost has a stigma now. Like guys don't even want to try to use that as a resource because it seems no good.
Well, luckily for you guys, I'm about to give you a bombshell that happened to me in the VA. Right. So I have a friend. He was one of the 13 that passed away on August 26th. Right. His name's Ryan Nouse. I was going through a depressive state. Right. And as you guys are well aware, I was suing the school district as well. That was Sunday at 9:00 on the 26th. I was approached by a person who I can't give names right now, but they wanted to help me because Ryan had just passed away. Right. So they wanted to help me. They're like, well, let's get you some outpatient therapy. Let's do this. I'll help you right now. He was a veteran, former veteran as well. And basically what happened was I went to the VA. Right. He took me to John Cochran, which I thank him for that. John Cochran, one of the worst VA hospitals I've ever been to. I've only been to the VA once, and this is my first time. I'm sharing this experience with you that only very few know. And this happened in August, right? I was running for Congress already at this point.
Okay.
So the people that were there knew who I was. They knew I was suing the school district as well. I get there, they're like, oh, you're gonna get to talk to a therapist. We're gonna help you, as I'm diagnosed with PTSD, I deal with it, stuff like that. And we're going to help you. Okay, cool. They take me to this classroom in John Cochran, right? They're like, wait here. This is the waiting room. Wait here. The therapist can come get you. Next thing you know, door locks behind me. 6 federal police officers for the VA, right? They're federal police officers come in, take all my clothes, all my phone, everything from me. They take my clothes, right? They put me in paper clothes on suicide prevention, right? They sent a court order out to St. Louis County 21st District Court, right, to get me 96-hour sequence, held by court order at a 96-hour sequence for mental health, right, and strap me to a gurney, drive me to Jefferson Barracks Hospital, right, and hold me on 96-hour sequence. Now, it only happened to me. This all happened to me, right, and I'm running for Congress. So if this can happen to me, it can happen to anyone, but it gets worse than that. So 8 hours later, they released me, because they knew they had messed up at this point. And I asked the doctor there, I was like, how many people do you guys actually help? Be honest with me. He said 1 in 500. 1 in 500 veterans who this happens to actually get the treatment that they came there to get.
Yeah.
So if this happens to me, which made me more depressed, right? I went through a whirlwind afterwards. You guys just stripped me of everything I have.
Well, that was my first, that's kind of what I meant earlier. Is it almost, oh God, I'm either I'm crazy, what the hell, or I'm never doing that again. That's an option off the board, which is kind of depressing itself.
I think for any mental health issue, the last thing people want is to be treated like they're crazy or something.
And it's beyond that. It's beyond that because taxpayers fund this. Taxpayers pay for this, and they're sitting there trying to give these people this 1 in 500 lithium, trying to make them crazy. Almost like they're a burden to society. And President Abraham Lincoln said that a nation that does not honor its heroes will not long endure. And they're torturing our heroes. And you know what? What else the doctor said? And this is at Jefferson Barracks, right here in St. Louis.
Right.
The doctor said you would have got better help if you would have robbed a gas station and went to prison.
I believe that. Not always. I kind of like you said. I guess I do like the idea of trying to reform people coming out of prison. Not okay, you can go, but we're going to keep a close eye on you. But yeah, that a lot of times seems like that figure you said what it is that keeps someone in prison for a year. It's more than a lot of people make.
83,000. That's more than a prison guard makes.
Cheaper for you to live free than it is to.
And let me tell you something, man. And it gets even worse than that because these people who they put in prison, right? And I'll give a prime example. When I came up with this prisoner rights reestablishment bill, I was at the VFW, right there off Lima Ferry, and I was talking to this guy. He got arrested in 1978 with a pound of marijuana, and that's why I brought up this whole story. he's a Vietnam veteran. He got a felony for marijuana within distribution with the intent to sell. And he's like, I wasn't selling any of it. I was going to smoke it because he's going through PTSD. He's going through all the stuff that the VA is not helping him with, right? He's like, I was going to smoke it. I wasn't planning on selling it. He went to prison, got out. Since 1978, right? He has not been allowed to vote, own a firearm, or do anything. And he's a veteran to this country.
Yeah, it's insanity.
And I did a background check on him because I was like, I'm going to make sure this guy's not.
Right.
Never had another, and he never was arrested ever again. The only thing he had was a parking ticket downtown on Laclede's Landing. That's the only thing he's had since 1978. He served this country, and he can't even vote for who runs it. So after that, I was like, this is unacceptable to treat the veterans like this, that we need to fix this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I can appreciate that for sure.
Yeah, that's something most people can get on board with.
Yeah, absolutely. But the problem is that I like to spice things up. I like to push the envelope of what's possible. I like to try to, when I get under certain people's skin, I'm like, oh, let's see if we can push a little bit harder, right? So like the Republican Party here, they're pretty much against me. You know, they wanted me to change the name, the Wolf of Washington. They wanted all this stuff. They're like, oh, they're gonna think you did coke off of a hooker. No, they're not. They're gonna know that when I come there, I'm there to party, and when I get into Congress, I'm there to party. So I was like, if we're shotgunning beers with the bros, you know, out in Washington, you know, that's just how it goes. I'm young. I'm not here. I don't have any agenda. I've offered to donate my entire salary that I make to charities of my constituents' choice. I get my retirement from the military. I need nothing more. I live comfortably, not, you know, I still live, you know,
sure.
Not necessarily paycheck to paycheck, but I make enough that I can pay my car payments, my house payments, and still be able to do the things I want to do.
Yeah, like you said, comfortably. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I don't need the money from Washington. I don't want any of it. And it gets them super mad. They get real upset about it.
Just pointing it out. That's so funny you said that, because when I was talking to somebody about this podcast coming up, and he looked it up, and he's like, does he want to go in there with that name? They're gonna think he's like, he's seen that movie, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
So we were actually, I was at dinner with I'm not gonna mention names of people, but they offered me $80,000 to change the name. So we'll donate $80,000 to your campaign if you change the name. I said, absolutely not. You know, so we actually have plans, and so like I said, the Republican Party, they're against me, right? Kind of like Eric Greitens.
Sure.
They're against Eric Greitens too. So the best thing for me is when my back's up against the wall. So they're not going to support me, right? So we just scheduled to have a billboard put up right in front of their headquarters that says, "The Wolf of Washington, are you triggered now?" So every day when they drive into their headquarters, they're going to see that billboard. And it is really, we could have bought other billboards cheaper that gets seen by more people, but it's the principle.
Sure.
And the only way we can fix this whole political system is to get someone inside that's willing to make that change. That says, I don't need any of your money. I don't want your money. I don't want anything. I want to protect this Constitution in this country and keep it the land of the free.
Sure.
So,
yeah. No, that's there's been other guys that we've talked to before who have talked about running for offices and stuff, and a lot less of them, or a lot of them are a lot less serious about it, you know, actually running a campaign and everything. But if nothing else, it brings up the conversation of, you know, why is it a certain type of people always in? Like, why don't you want normal, everyday kind of people in there who think more like most of the people out there? And yeah, it's, as far as like the Republican Party, you said earlier, it's kind of anti-Republican. That's one of the things that just makes me laugh when people use the label Republican talking. I'm like, I really don't think there's many people outside of Washington that are Republican anymore. I'm like,
there's not a lot of people that are in Washington that are Republican.
Well, that's very true too. But
the Republican Party as a whole, in my eyes, is fairly dead. And when I say fairly dead, there's a new grand old party, GOP.
Oh, yeah.
You know, for the Republicans for the last 50 years, every time they get in office, they don't have an agenda. Republican Party has no agenda. At least President Biden and his administration, along with the people in Washington, the squad, AOC, you know, they have an agenda. So when they got power, they're like, we're pushing it, which is against what the Americans want. But the Republicans, if we take power in 2022, what agenda do they have to push?
For sure.
What are they going to go do the opposite of whatever Biden wants?
Right.
That's great, but who does it help? Because Biden still has to sign it. He can veto everything and just keep pushing it back.
That's the game. Yeah, it seems like the Republican Party that's in there now and has been for several years now all they do is slow Democrats down with the stuff they want to do in liberal. And that's the thing that killed me when Trump left and when Republicans had office is like some of this protection for social media they did nothing to get rid of. Gun rights, actually, I point this out to people a lot because I really wasn't a huge Trump guy. I mean, actually in 2016, I told you that would happen. In 2016, before I went in to vote, I set out I've told you this before. I set out in my truck for probably 5-10 minutes and was just kind of soul searching a little bit because Gary Johnson was on the ticket then. And I'm like, I was a little more about it, the crazy hair and stuff. I'm like, I can live with it. I mean, I knew he wasn't going to win, but kind of send a message kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then when he ran into not knowing, I forget what country it was, didn't know what some country was or something. Like, oh God. So I cast a vote for Trump in 2016, but I was pretty reluctant about it. By that night, when I saw he had a chance to win, I was like, holy shit. Yeah, we were here. We were ecstatic. And then I was pleasantly surprised. I slowly became more of a fan. I was happier to vote for him in 2020 than I was in 2016. But as I point out to people all that time, another label all the time, well, how's your boy Trump or whatever? I'm like, boy Trump. I'm like,
and that's what I tell people all the time. Trump is not the law. Trump is not God.
He's not the.
I support Trump 100% through and through.
Sure.
Because he's an outsider that did what I'm attempting to do, what Eric Greitens is attempting to do, which he's already done once successfully in Missouri. So he's not, it's not like he was a career politician like a lot of these people in Congress.
Right.
So I supported him always because I was like, he's there to make a difference. He has money. He doesn't need anything from the presidency.
Right.
People will fight, oh, well, he's for power. Like he just wants the power of it.
Or the title is what a lot of people have told me.
Yeah. And in my eyes, I don't think he really cares about that.
I don't either.
Personally, I don't think he cares. I think he actually was there to help America, and he did a very good job. I mean, his numbers don't lie. You can look back at it. The numbers are undisputable.
For sure.
That's what I think gets lost so much is the substance of his presidency because he got made into such a polarizing figure. It's like, and that's what's so weird about it is it just became, are you anti-Trump or pro-Trump? And it's like, it got a lot less about subject matter. And that's I think still kind of going on. Like it's still, you get on Twitter and it's still like, oh, you pro-Trump, like, sorry, Trump.
But see, why does it matter? This is what they were creating. And when I say they, I'm talking about Democrats in Washington. They created this falsehood with the 2020 election, right? And I say that because I believe there was a lot of election integrity violations.
Yeah.
Right.
For sure.
I mean, Maricopa County, Eric Greitens went down there. He's seen the audits. I seen the audits live on TV. We watched them count these audits. And there was enough to overturn the election in Arizona, just in Maricopa County. So with that being said, I'm not saying that the election was rigged. I'm not going to make those claims. But there was definitely enough to say, hey, we should probably do an audit on all this.
Look into it at least.
Look into it. Ease the American people's minds.
Well, especially because after 2020, the cries it was like I just don't understand why nobody even wants to double. Yeah, 2016. I just don't understand why people wouldn't want to make sure that your election was
because the money's
correct.
Not in that.
Right.
And that's what I was getting at. So they create enough doubt. They cast enough doubt on this 2020 election that they actually want to. They know that Republicans are like, I'm not going to vote anymore. My vote doesn't count. Why would I vote? That's their chance to take back the house or keep the house in 2022 is because there's probably enough people that are willing to vote that won't vote because they don't believe their election or their ballot's going to actually count for anything. And that's what I urge people specifically. You got to get out there. You have to vote.
For sure.
No matter what happens, you have to vote because we need this.
In local elections too, that's the biggest thing is people will go out once every 4 years for president and ignore everything. Like people are taking over the cities, the state levels, all the stuff. Like, man, the president's one office, and granted, it's a very important one, but I voted.
I think that might have backfired because I've never been more motivated to vote than after that.
And there's a lot of people like that too. Like I'm getting out there, I'm voting, but you also see a lot of people who are like, I'm not going to vote. Like, why should I vote?
Right.
And I talk to thousands of people a week or whatever, and I'm telling them like, hey, like we need you. We need you to vote. Your only duty as a citizen of this country is to elect people to represent you.
Yeah.
Because it's not just you, it's your neighbor. And once you divide, you conquer, right? So that's what has been so successful over the past 5 years, actually since Obama's second term, it's been division in this country. It's been, let's see how far we can divide it,
really ramped
so
up.
that way we can conquer the whole country in a whole.
Yeah. I was kind of doing this, not exercise, but we were talking at work the other day. I'm like, because he said something. He's like, man, it's just gotten so crazy the last couple of years. I'm like, let's kind of backtrack. I'm like, the last couple of years with COVID and the election and all that, I'm like, that was crazy. I'm like, but look at the 4 years before that when Trump was in office. Like, that wasn't crazy. Like, the entire time was crazy. And then I was like, go back even more. And it really seems like you could, I mean, Obama won so well because so many people were upset with how Bush handled all the wars in the Middle East and everything. I'm like, this really goes back to kind of 9/11. I was like, it was really the last time that people were each other's enemy. And that's what sucks, is because it started out after 9/11, so the opposite of that. Like, everyone's so united and everything, but it's kind of weird. What just seemed like such a unionizing moment is really kind of the catalyst for what's been driving people apart, it seems like, in hindsight.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. And then that's where it comes back to the money, right? I always tell people, if you follow the money, you'll get to the truth. And with that being said, 9/11, you got conspiracy theorists that'll say it was a setup. You got it doesn't matter. Do you know that we spent $189 million keeping one person in prison in Guantanamo Bay since 2003 when he was captured? I don't know his whole name because it's like 5 names, right. But his name is Muhammad, which is, it's Muhammad.
Of course.
In January, he was supposed to be sentenced to death. January of last year. He wasn't sentenced to death. Guess why? Just take a random. It's going to blow your socks off. It's going to blow your socks right off. Because he didn't have his COVID vaccine of this year.
He wasn't sentenced to death because he didn't have a shot?
He didn't have a COVID vaccine. So the Department of Justice, because he didn't have his vaccine, the Department of Justice postponed his trial. He was the mastermind behind 9/11, right? So he's been sitting in Guantanamo Bay for the past 18 years, and he's supposed to be sentenced to death, right? He didn't have his vaccine, so the Department of Justice postponed his trial, right, to sentence him to death. So American taxpayers, let's be honest here, American taxpayers have spent $189 million as of January to keep him alive so he can do what? Be sentenced to death. And then because he didn't have his vaccine, he wasn't sentenced. This is what I'm talking about. That the money is just crazy. Who spends that kind of money? I wouldn't even keep him alive for $180, $18.90. I would keep him alive. We could have fixed that situation with a 20-cent round. A Remington 20-cent round.
35 cents would do it now.
Well, what is the reason for him being there for 18 years in the first place?
Because he kept getting his trial pushed.
That's
so strange.
They have enough evidence to prove that he was a mastermind behind 9/11, and yet he's sitting there getting 3 meals a day, getting protection, right, in Guantanamo, and getting at the price of the taxpayers' money.
When it's all the guys, like, it was, I don't know, was Charles Manson sentenced to death? But I'm just thinking, like, other people, like, whether terrorist or not, or whether it's a government, well, I guess it's all government, but a federal type of prison like that, any of them, they're just in prison so long.
So here's my unpopular opinion, and I'm gonna give you guys the gritty on it. I don't believe in life sentences. I believe in death sentences. If you're sentenced to life, you're a burden to society. And when I say burden to society, I'm not talking about your crime. I'm talking about $83,000 a year.
Right.
How many people are arrested at 24, 25 years old and sentenced to life in prison? And they're sitting in our criminal justice system. That life imprisonment is a death sentence.
Right. Yeah. Why? Just a very, very slow, expensive one.
Exactly. We're talking $1 million per person at that age.
Right.
Right. Why are we spending that? Why does the taxpayer have to front that money?
Yeah. It's
unpopular. I'm not gonna lie. It's unpopular, but
it's a weird thing. I mean, I consider myself, I think, pro death penalty under the right circumstances, but yeah, it is a weird thing. There's certain cases, I guess, especially when we're talking about these going quick. Yep. Like, what was that? I don't know many details about the case, but what was that truck driver who was sentenced like 111 years?
110 years.
Yeah, yes. Something crazy like that.
So it got communed by
right.
the governor of Colorado to 10 years, so with that whole story of that lawsuit, right, or that criminal case, from what I know, his brakes failed it was proven that his brakes failed, because a lot of truckers, they'll be like, oh,
Right.
my brakes failed.
Right.
No, but it was proven his brakes failed. They were using the fact that he didn't use the runway, the the slow down runway. I
Right.
don't know what it's called.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah.
So that's what the prosecuting attorneys used. But 110 years is crazy.
That's
it was proven it was an accident, which it's still, it's still terrible. It's a terrible tragedy. But at what point is an accident an accident, and a person who actually needs to be put in jail?
Right.
You got people who are committing armed robbery and they're spending 2 years in prison.
Right.
And this guy his brakes failed.
You looked a little lost. Do you know anything about that one?
No, I don't know.
There was a truck driver who his brakes failed in Colorado, mountainous, and I guess rather than use the runaway truck lane like you're supposed to, he stayed on the road. Basically, ran over a car and killed. Was it just one person, or
it was 4 people were killed?
Oh.
I almost said murdered, which would have been false, and don't take that. So 4 people were killed, and there was multiple other injuries. I mean, his truck was going 80 miles an hour and plowed through. It was a dead stop ahead. But you got to remember, he was on a 6% decline too. In a semi truck that weighs, 50,000 pounds, that's a lot of weight going downhill on those brakes.
Once it gets going, so he was sentenced 110 years, which people, I mean, it blew up. People were furious.
What's the point of that?
Exactly.
Because that's the way the criminal justice system is set up. They established a precedent, right, previously, that he was charged for each charge of manslaughter. And each one, the minimum sentence, I don't remember the minimum sentence specifically, but I think it was like 17 or 18 years times 4 or times 5 was 110 years.
And sometimes, again, I don't know under what circumstances they'll stack those. So it's like you get 15 years for this one, 15 for this one, but you start them all at the same time. So it's really 15 years. That one was back to back to back.
Yeah.
So it was rough. I do want to take a real quick break because we're talking about we're going to be taking live chats. It was on the post and everything. Yeah. So as people go, we're going to get some. Anthony Brown says, Wes Smith, what's up, my dude? Remember
how's
rugby,
it going,
bro?
Man? Yeah, I do remember rugby. I loved it out there. After we got done playing at Fox, I played for Team USA against Italy and Spain and stuff out there. I played beach rugby for the Army out there.
That's pretty cool. Let's see.
Is Wes a veteran?
Tommy asks here, is Wes a veteran?
Yes, I am.
Yeah, I guess we established that, and that's on your website. It's in the link and everything. But
let me. So obviously, I enlisted in the Army right after high school. I served 7.5 years in the Army. A parachute accident cut my time short.
Ooh.
I broke my neck and my back, and I'm 40% or 60% blind in my left eye. So yeah, I got retired early after the parachute accident, and it was very unfortunate because I was planning to spend the rest of my time in there. I was a joint fires observer. I called in artillery, airstrikes, mortars, and stuff like that in the Army. I was with the 173rd, the 82nd, and then in my last deployment, we deployed, and I was attached to 10 Special Forces out there in Nangarhar Province, Afghanistan.
Wow.
So yeah, I got to do a lot of fun stuff while I was in the Army. 49 jumps was where I was cut short. So
oh man, that's crazy.
But after that, I had a bunch of TBIs and stuff. I actually spent like 9 months in Intrepid Spirit out at Fort Bragg. It's a rehabilitation center, and recovered from all my injuries and stuff like that. So
that's awesome. Yeah, I mean, thankful.
Hopefully that answers your question.
That's really cool. Yeah, no, we wanted to talk about that a little bit, but let's see. Keegan says you guys have to take shots, not sibs.
Come on.
Let's see. Jeremy Denizen, we need people like Wesley who want to go to DC to serve the people, not themselves and their special interests.
Jeremy, I'm with you, man. I love you out there, and I'm really rooting for you.
Let's see. Papa K here. A lot of R's are afraid they will be discovered too.
Hey, and they will be. I promise you that.
Let's see. I know it's a low percentage, but 4.1% of people who are sentenced to death sentences are eventually proven innocent. That, I guess, is why I brought up the
so I want to answer that question.
Yeah. That was why I brought that up.
I would love to answer.
No, yeah, absolutely.
So with that being said, in the proposal, right, because this all goes back into the prisoner rights reestablishment bill that I was talking about. All of this is addressed in this bill. So I believe after a jury of your peers, you immediately get an appeal, right?
Okay.
Immediately. Excuse me. So immediately get an appeal, and there is a team of justices, right? The Supreme Court, whatever it be, whether it's statewide, Supreme Court, or whatnot, they immediately get a rule of decision. And I'm saying immediately, we're talking a couple of months. We're not talking
right.
20 years on death row, 30
Yeah.
years on death row. It's ridiculous.
Right.
So you get a right to an appeal, and if they're proven innocent, then that's what was right. That's what's
Sure.
just, right? If you're not proven innocent and it comes back 20 years later that you were innocent, well, on that point, again, this might sound bad, but that's collateral damage. And it's not in a bad way. We're talking 4.1%. We're talking out of the hundreds of thousands of people.
And hopefully, a huge amount of that 4.1% would be picked up with an additional step or something like that.
And that's what we need. We need not just one. We need multiple additional steps,
Sure.
right, to make sure that this person is sentenced to death for the right reasons and not sentenced to death as an innocent man or woman. So it goes back. It goes back a long way because it's really hard to do, but it's possible. And it saves taxpayers tons of money.
Right.
And that's what I'm about. I'm about saving the taxpayer money, and I'm about what can we do to establish like an actual GDP where we can still undercut it and make money. So right now our GDP is 3.8. Biden is trying to raise it to 4.4, which is not possible. So at 3.8%, we're still paying $700 billion a year. That's with a B. $700 billion a year. We're still paying. We're borrowing $700 billion a year. That doesn't even cover our interest on the money we already owe.
Right.
So a way we can balance budget, we can cut back on healthcare, we can cut back on prison, and we can cut back on our military while giving our military pay raises, right?
Sure.
And that's a whole nother plan that I haven't got to, but
I'm all ears because
we can cut the military budget by $200 billion a year while still giving our soldiers pay raises and maintaining the strongest fighting force that this country and this world has ever seen.
Oh yeah, multiples above. You could cut our military 20%, down to 20%. We're still spend more than anybody else.
Exactly.
It actually brings up a good point. So I'm curious, having served everything, what your thoughts was on. Obviously the execution of leaving Afghanistan was
terrible.
Horrible,
it was awful.
butchered, but I think it was time to do it, and that was one of the points where I almost kind of gave Biden the benefit of the doubt. I'm like, I think it was time for that to happen personally, but again, executed horribly.
So this is where you guys are going to get some information that no one else has.
That's why we're here.
That's why you're here. So, and I hope everyone listening is paying attention. You want to hit low power mode so that we will continue to run on this.
Yes, sir.
So this is information that you won't find by Googling it, but I can promise you it's true. Behind my name and behind anyone else who will support it. On May 1st, the CIA released a report saying that 22 out of 26 provinces in Afghanistan were overrun on May 1st. What date did we pull out of Afghanistan?
Was that in May? I don't even remember. July
6th, in the middle of the night, we pulled out. So you're telling me there were 60 days for you to get this intel. The CIA released a report on May 1st saying that there was 22 out of 26 provinces overrun in Afghanistan, including the province that I served in Nangarhar province, was overrun, which included Jalalabad airfield. JAF is what we called it, right?
Right.
And that was May 1st. So 60 days later, you pull out of Afghanistan. Now, I have my own speculations, but when I get in office, that's my plan, is to investigate this, because this is a truth report from the CIA saying that we told this administration 60 days prior that we're talking more than 2/3, 22 out of 26 provinces were overrun. So in the middle of the night on July 6th, you decide to remove everyone from Bagram, right, which is one of the provinces that weren't overrun. Well, now you can't tell me it doesn't seem fishy that you remove everyone from Bagram, where 5,000 prisoners are held, which I've been to Bagram, right? So 5,000 prisoners there, and you didn't think that Kabul was going to get overrun. And then all of the bureaucrats up in Washington, well, we didn't know. You did know because you were warned by the CIA, 60 days ago.
Then you didn't care. Yeah,
they didn't care. And if you ask me, there's a lot of extenuating factors, if we shall say, that led up to that system, which I can't give you all the details right now, but there's a lot of other factors that led into the decision to remove people on July 6th, which in turn caused the death of 13 Americans, along with thousands of Afghans and everyone else who have been killed since.
Right. Yeah. Of course. That's what
you
people
won't see
forget.
the media won't report that there's still a war going on in Afghanistan.
Right.
There's still a war. Americans aren't a part of it, which I agreed to remove people from Afghanistan.
That I guess was my question, but
there's a better way to do it. There was a better way to do it. First off, we should have destroyed all of our equipment. We already knew that.
100%.
That's it.
That seems like a no-brainer.
You gave these people 160 Apache or helicopters, not Apaches, Blackhawks, and 800,000 rounds and all this ammunition. And I mean, it's crazy.
One of my prized possessions is I got a Scar 17 last year, and like I said, prized possession. I'm like, this is like my once in a lifetime rifle here.
Yeah.
And then, when pictures were coming out, there's all these Taliban holding those with like nods and stuff, and I'm like, there's just a fun switch, and they just go snag it out of a locker
for free.
It's like, oh my god.
Imagine getting yours for free. I couldn't imagine what you paid, but I'm assuming probably like 21, 22.
I'm like, if those are just sitting around, I mean, hey.
Yeah. It makes you want to fly over there and grab a bunch and fly back.
One of the most, I want to say funny, but they can have it. But no, one of the, I want to say funny, not funny, but God, when people were outraged about that, they're like, oh, you left how many Apaches? And like, they're not going to figure out how to fly the Apaches. Like 4 days later, there's an Apache flying.
Yep.
Well, you left them enough to test it out for a few days.
Right.
But if you go back and you see what the Biden administration was so proud of is that they demilitarized all the planes and stuff I'm sorry, what's the airfield in Kandahar? Or not Kandahar. The airport. What is the airport?
Oh, I know the one that was all over the news.
Yeah,
right?
the one that was all. I don't even know what it's called.
I forget now. Yeah,
but they're like, well, we deactivated all the planes there. Well, good. What about Bagram? What about Jaff? What about CAF? What about all the other planes? And what about the parts that they have from the working planes that they can transfer to make more working planes?
Right. Yeah, it's funny because I guess it kind of where my worlds collide because it was the gun building and I'm always following new military weapons and stuff, but and then the political side of it too. But they're like, it's kind of weird. They're like AK-47s weren't made in the Middle East; those are left over from when the Soviets were over there. And they're like, the military's working on their next generation weapon, and the M4 is kind of getting obsolete. They're like, I'll bet you in 20 years the M4 is going to be like a terrorist weapon. They're like, that's what they're all going to have, and we're going to have something new, and that's that's what's left over from an old era.
It will be. I mean, I can't give a definite answer, but I'm pretty sure it's about 800,000 M4s were left behind.
Oh my God,
there's a lot.
So almost enough to arm every single individual to have a bigger army than the United States has.
Again, with what multiples our military is compared to other countries, I'm sure what we left behind was probably more than several places militaries had. Well, they showed that stat too, the helicopters, and they showed like just what was left was more than like developed countries.
And that's where I get to. This is another unpopular opinion amongst Republicans, but this is where I come to reform the military and the Department of Justice or the Department of Defense in general, because the generals at the top up there in the Pentagon will feed you bull crap all day. They will tell you, oh, we're doing this for the veterans. We're doing this. We're doing that. They're not doing anything. It's all about the money that's coming in and the perspective of the American people. Oh, this general just said we're doing this for the American people. Well, you're not.
Right.
But you only know that if you were in the Army or you were in the military. Now, we can cut the defense budget, right? And like I was telling you before, we can cut the defense budget while still giving our soldiers better pay and better training, because the amount of money that's wasted, and I can't get into specifics, but the amount of money that's wasted from a team of 12 people, right? 12 people that I was in the Army with, we were missing $20 million worth of equipment. So if us 12 out of the million people that are in the Army or the armed forces in general are missing 20 million, how much is the rest missing?
As expensive as that stuff is too. I mean, you got to believe those figures.
Well, it's only expensive because we pay the highest bidder for the crappiest equipment. And that's not a lie.
Right. Again, from a gun building perspective, that's something people always talk about, like mil-spec, and they're like, no, mil-spec does not mean good. It means it meets the bare minimum requirements.
Yes.
And a lot of times they have buddies at a certain manufacturer that, gets a contract and makes a ton of money selling a pretty not very good piece of equipment.
Yeah. No, you can call it what it is. It's crap. It's a crap.
Oh, for sure. Well,
You know?
hell, I showed you. I actually just finished I guess it was built, but I had an AR that was kind of modeled after an M4.
Yep.
I called it my M forgery. But I actually just finished stripping that back down. I took the optic off. I took like all the fancy Magpul furniture off and put it back to like military style stuff.
Yeah.
Because I wanted it to be like the one I had at basic training. And I showed it to him and I'm like, compared to the fancy shit I have, I'm like, this is what's more expensive and what they're all because he was like, it's funny how naked it looks. Like it's just it's kind of a shit stick.
I tell you, man, it cracks me up because it's like, so I'll be honest, we use an ATAX or I can't go into a lot of details on live, but we go through a system that, you can basically see it has black chips in it, right? That you can see every satellite in the world and where it's looking, and it shows you GPS coordinates, active GPS coordinates. So you're using these and you're using rover feeds where you can connect to an F-35 and see whatever their sensor seeing, right?
That's why.
Why am I carrying 30 pounds of batteries with me just to use? It makes no sense. Come on. You're telling me that there's no Tesla battery or something that we can be using in our backpacks that weigh 5 pounds compared to this crap? We're using lead acid batteries.
Yeah, they're slow to adapt.
But that's what I'm saying. The military's spending money on these lead acid batteries when lithium ion is the new way forward, which I disagree with lithium ion because it's not a carbon offset. But for the principle of,
lightweight and better.
and supposedly more Green New Deal or carbon offset
Sure.
footing, it's better. But
like I said, I was ready for them to get out of there, but it was handled like crap. And I don't think there was going to be any scenario where something didn't happen, but especially letting the military base go and then going to the civilian airport and being like, well, let's leave. I'm like, why in the hell?
I think the weirdest thing about it is, it's not just this. We've talked about this with a lot of different situations, but it's like when I say they, like the media, it seems like they kind of frame things in a way like we're supposed to have short-term memory loss and like, oh, that was a win that we got out of Afghanistan. It's like,
so getting out of
getting
Afghanistan
out
was
is
a
good.
win.
No, I'm just saying. It's strange to me the way they frame some of these things. Like, that's all they said. Oh, we got out of Afghanistan, but they don't talk about what happened. And it's the same way with a lot of these things. We just talked about it with January 6th, the way that's remembered differently by different people you ask. It's really strange.
Don't get me on January 6th.
Yeah, right? It's strange to me how differently things are framed versus how people actually remember them.
Oh, yeah. Well, that'll be all over Biden's campaign in 2024 is I got us out of Afghanistan. You completely hacked that.
You funded terrorism. You single-handedly
supplied it.
Not only supplied it, but you funded it as well because we left like $80 million in cash there as well.
I forgot about that. There was like a huge amount of cash too.
Yeah.
That almost.
So not only did you fund it, you also supplied them with the weapons and ammunition to go against any force they want. If the Taliban wanted to, they could go after France next. They could say, you know what? We don't like the Iraqis. We're taking over Iraq, which good luck to you guys, Taliban, if you're listening. So now, but if you wanted to, they could go after Iraq and they'd probably lose. But
yeah. Like you said, I'm not super conspiratorial about it, but I'm like, so you left in the middle of the night, leaving a completely armed base, planes, helicopters, rifles, night vision, uniforms, everything, and a big stack of cash right there.
Yes.
It sounds like a war zone.
It's
like
justification for that.
No,
I
no.
don't understand.
It's honestly absurd. It's ridiculous. But that gets into the money, the military spending, and all the spending up there in Washington.
Because it's not a big deal to them.
People will look at it and say America's $29 trillion in debt. We're way beyond that, way more than they report. Right. And when I say that, I mean Social Security. And when I say Social Security, I'm not talking about cutting Social Security. I'm talking about the fact that for the past 50 years, when you've been voting for whoever you've been voting for, they've been spending your Social Security. So all the money you've spent in Social Security for your retirement, right, has been spent by Congress. So when they say $20 trillion in debt, we're actually $100 trillion in debt.
Right.
Because now they realize what they've done. So they're like, oh, we're going to pay Social Security. So they pay it out of our GDP, right? And then they try to spend the rest of the GDP, but it's because they've already spent over the past 50 years, they've already spent the rest of your money. So you're getting your retirement, yes, but in a decade, maybe 2 decades, those people aren't getting no retirement.
Yeah.
You know?
There's going to come a time where this all catches up. I mean, it seems like it was frantically moving stuff around and trying to act like everything's okay, but there's going to come a time where that catches up, and it's
going to come back to fight Americans. But that's why I tell people it's not the past 10 years, 20 years that the division's been created. It's the past 50 years. You know, when Reagan left office, it's till now. You're talking. It's going to be a drastic change, and if we as American people do not stand up to stand for what's right, we're going to be in a lot of trouble.
I think so many people want to just the amount of times that I'll I'm not a very in your face type of person about my views or politics. You know, I try to explain things to people, but my mindset is always, I think most normal people, not people in Washington and stuff, but I think a lot of normal people come from a good place with what they think. You know, like, for example, just because it's so big on this channel and us personally is like the anti-gun stuff. I see so many people like calling names and getting mad at them. And I'm like, I understand a lot of people who are not familiar or comfortable with firearms. They think that they're doing what they think saves lives. And I most of the time get that. And I try to explain and educate people, but not so much lecture and harass. But at the same time, I'm not very in your face about it. And I think a lot of people, anytime it starts to come up, they'll kind of back off it. They're like, well, I don't want to get into it. Like they try to actively avoid politics and
you
knowledge, really. That's the thing.
To an extent, you have to.
Yeah, it's so many people don't want to look into any of this, don't want to know anything about it. That they don't want any part of it.
So here's my question for you then. If someone knocks at your door right now and says, "I'm taking your gun," what are you doing? I'm saying right now in this interview, I'm from the government. I'm here to take your gun.
Oh.
What are you doing?
We're live. I don't know.
All right. Well, I'll tell you what I'm doing, and we can be live. I'm shooting first, asking questions later. I'll look through your pockets after I shoot you and see if you're really from the government. Because if not, then you trespass on my property.
That's what's. Are you familiar with Tim Pool?
Yeah.
Did you see he got swatted the other day during his show?
In the show. Yeah, I see.
Yeah. The guy watched. They were in the middle of a live stream just like this, and they got swatted. You see a police officer walk right past the camera. Somebody swatted them like while they were. So it was literally like that. Like it's like if we're here and a policeman just came in and they said there were like 50 police cars outside from
and it's not because I'm anti-American. It's because I am American and I have that right. That I'm shooting first, asking questions. I mean, we did it in Afghanistan. We did it a lot in Afghanistan, and I'll do it again. I'm not afraid of any of these officers, and I love police. I love them. But on the same hand, if you're going to abide by unconstitutional rule, you're going to get served. That's
what scares me so much. Yeah, I've been very pro police. I have a lot of friends who are police. My dad used to be a state trooper. I mean, but all of them have always told me, like, well, you know, if it came down to that point, there's no way we're enforcing it.
Yep.
The only thing that scared the hell out of me was the amount of police that were enforcing the COVID restriction stuff.
Yes.
And
still are.
Yeah, still are.
I'd love for them to serve me with some COVID restrictions. That'd be great.
It seems a little less draconian at first. And on the one hand, hopefully it's because they're doing it less. But at the same time, I really like sometimes I'm almost like, am I getting used to or conditioned to it? Like at first there were all the videos where they're like pinning. There was that mom at the playground. They like pinned her to the ground for not wearing a mask at the playground or something. It's like you don't see that as much anymore. But at the same time, I'm like, is it just because they're not showing it? I mean, like,
it's because they're not showing it. Because if I go into Walmart, I'm purposely coughing. I'm like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like telling them, like, hey, you know, I tell people, and like I did at the county council meeting last week, I told them, I was like, hey, I touched the doorknob in the bathroom. I touched the manual sink, the manual paper towel puller, the manual soap. I got COVID 5 times while I was in the bathroom. And here I am. I'm fine, you know. So I don't really. COVID is not a hoax. It's a real virus.
Absolutely.
Obviously, it's killing people, right? However, COVID isn't a significant threat. When I get into that, I'm talking like there's significant threats in this world, and COVID's not one of them. If it was my call, COVID would be at like the bottom of the list of 100.
100, especially recently.
Diabetes,
To everyday
heart
people,
disease,
and I know there are people
cancer.
that are at more risk. I understand that it's more of an issue to them.
Stay
people.
home.
Yeah, exactly. The onus should not be on the general public to protect the small portion of people that are.
If you
at
have
more
an
risk.
autoimmune disease and I have to go get groceries for my family, I'm sorry, but stay home.
Yeah, I mean,
They have Instacart, they have Uber, they have whatever you need. Do whatever you got to do, but it's not my fault that you
if
know.
a mask makes you feel safer, wear a mask. Like I
Wear a mask, a face shield,
wear a hazmat suit.
I don't care what you do. You know.
Yeah, it's one of those. So yeah, when we talk about like the
You gotta hit
percentages,
close on that over there. I don't know if it's gonna do anything. My phone probably died, but it's all right.
when people talk about the percentages and like how dangerous it is and stuff like that, the biggest thought I have, I'm like, man, if you are worried about being like a 0.01%, you got no business driving. Like wherever we're at, I'm like, what did you drive here? What do you think the odds are that you are in a fatal car accident?
And I'll be honest, I'm sorry if it offends people on your life. If you're wearing a mask in your car, you're an idiot. I look at you and I say, well,
you don't have to worry about fitting anybody on
I'm
that.
glad you voted for Biden, and that's why you're paying $3.30 for gas. You're an idiot. You know, it's just how it goes. I mean, you're in your own car.
It's a strange phenomenon.
I had somebody pull up at my work one time, and they were sitting out in their car for a minute with rubber gloves and a mask. When they came in, these rubber gloves were black. They were disgusting. And I was like, dude, there's no way that's cleaner than just having your hands on your own steering wheel.
Yes.
You're by yourself in a car.
Well, that's what I don't understand is the mask thing is the people that preach about the mask, but then wear the same one every day for like the last 6 months. And it's like, okay.
That's Dr. Page. He's right here in St. Louis County.
What's going on with that? That was another question I wanted to ask you about. This keeps going back and forth. And even my wife, she's like, I can't keep up with this. She's like, how are we supposed to know when?
I'll tell you right now. I'll give you the truth. First off, anytime St. Louis County, Dr. Page, I hope you're listening because I told you I was going to be on your ass for the rest of your life. Dr. Page is a tyrant. He loves wasting taxpayer funds. He even insider traded $3 million to his friend to post COVID propaganda out there in Fenton. There's a media company out there, right, that was posting and also making propaganda for COVID on behalf of St. Louis County residents, right? Funded $3 million by St. Louis County residents, which is crazy to me because Fenton's not in St. Louis County. But
parts of it are.
It's like half and half.
Yeah.
Okay, but where it's at, it's not.
Interesting.
So Sam Page, he has a bunch of friends that do a bunch of things for him. I mean, he moonlight for SSM Health and blah, blah. We don't have to get through the whole story. However, Sam Page is a tyrant and he loves wasting taxpayer funds. That's the bottom line. And so every time he gets sued, right, he's 0-3 right now in the courts. And so he's like pushing, Lisa Clancy and all these other tyrants. They're like, oh, we're going to vote for this mask mandate, right? Rita Days, I hope you're listening too. I was friends with you, and I thought that you were going to vote for this, but you voted against me, and now you're not going to get reelected. However, Rita Days, she voted for the mask mandate, which was already ruled by the Supreme Court of Missouri that it's unconstitutional. That if you're a politician and you vote for such mandate, that it is breaking the law. That you could be charged.
That's, I guess, what I don't understand is it keeps getting overturned and they just keep doing it again. And I'm like, what's the game here?
You know how much money they wasted? Over $1 million already in lawsuits. And guess what? Eric Schmidt, he already sued him again. I tell people every time they pass the mask mandate, I'm like, don't go buy a mask or anything, people. You don't need to because it's going to be overturned faster than it was than it was created, And Sam Page knows this, right? That's why he's got Dr. Khan as his acting health director because Dr. Khan's an idiot. And I'm not even making this up. He's not even a doctor. That's the worst part.
Oh, Lord.
He's a doctor because he's got a PhD, but he's not a doctor because he's a medical doctor.
Not a doctor of medicine.
Yeah, he's not a doctor of medicine. So why is he acting health director? Why is Sam Page sitting as county executor while he's working for SSM Health, which is illegal?
Yeah, that's
based on the charter of St. Louis County.
Nothing makes sense. But again, nobody. Most of that's news to me.
Yeah.
And like I said, even I try to stay fairly up to that's what I'm saying. Nobody pays attention to like their local stuff.
Yep.
And that's
But local news agencies here in St. Louis County won't report it.
well, and meanwhile though, I swear to you, the only reason I even still follow them is just because I want to see how absurd it gets. So for example, Fox 2 News all the time, they're like, how far are you traveling for Christmas? And it's like like
So I
there's
don't give a
nothing
shit.
going on in the world.
You don't need to know where I'm traveling for Christmas.
Well, that or they just like these just buzzword questions, like how many engagements they can get. I'm like, is this they're like the promoters on social media. They're just like, how many comments and likes can we get on this? Or like, share this if you got what you wanted for Christmas. Like stupid shit like that. I'm like, can you inform people of what's going on in their local areas, please?
Be good, right? So my campaign manager. I don't know if you looked it up or not. His name's Raleigh Runner. He legally changed his name to this. But
that's his legal name?
His legal name. Because he owns a charity here in Missouri that helps homeless called the Raleigh Run Organization.
Okay.
It's a charity. It helps homelessness in the St. Louis area. So I hired him because I like the guy, but he also triggers everyone else, which is what I'm all about. So, he was at the January 6th, the riots that they call an insurrection, which if it was an insurrection, we would still be sitting in the House right now. Like we would have had this podcast from the House floor. I would have been sitting in Nancy Pelosi's seat,
Kicked up an AOC's desk.
So if we really wanted to, that's where it would have been. But anyways, he was there. Well, I don't know if you guys have seen the Tucker Carlson segment.
I saw his picture. He posted like himself posing the same pose as him on the news or something.
Yeah, that was Tucker Carlson. Tucker Carlson, Joseph McBride, they came at him sideways. And like I told you before, when you go after the wolf, you get bit, right? So Tucker Carlson, Fox News, Joseph McBride, they got a lot coming for them this year. It's really great. It's a lot of news I can't give you guys because, legal counsel, they advise otherwise. But let me tell you, it's huge. It's big. And they basically accused him of being an agent provocateur for the FBI, basically someone who caused the violence. They were there to disrupt the movement of the people. And I mean, they came up with crazy stuff. Basically, one person said that he was a DNC spy that was hired by the DNC to cause violence.
Who is this?
These people are accusing Raleigh Runner.
Okay, that's what I thought we were talking about.
Yeah, no.
Oh my God.
And blasted it to 2.6 million viewers on Tucker Carlson. So he's got a lot coming for him. It's unfortunate because I believed in Tucker and Fox News because they always go against fake news. Well, it turns out they're just as equal as the rest of them.
Yeah, Fox News as a whole for sure. I haven't. But again, there's we should make a list one of these days of like funny things. Your boy Trump, the Republican thing, like turn back on Fox News. I'm like, when the hell was the last time I watched Fox News? Tucker Carlson, I thought stood out for a little while, but I've been hearing things that are kind of disappointing recently.
Yeah, he really is. He really is. And so I tell you what, man. And this Raleigh guy, he's a great guy. He's a great guy here in this area, and he helps a lot of people. And he got picked out because his face was red. He had his face painted. So out of the millions of people that were there at the Capitol that day, he was one of 4 that got picked out.
Oh, no.
So you're telling me the odds are so slim, and it happened to be him who was my campaign manager. And I'm like, now everyone's like, oh, you've got to fire him. You got to stop this. I'm like, why? He did nothing wrong. He was cleared by the FBI back in January.
Oh, was he? Okay.
On January 13th, 14th last year, he was exonerated. He didn't have any charges. He didn't cause any violence. He just happened to be there. Being in the Capitol is not a crime. Being at the people's house is not a crime. He never went in the house.
That probably saved him quite a bit.
And on top of that, he had a 360 GoPro that videotaped the whole footage.
There you go.
And he sent it to the FBI. I'll take a little bit more. It's just like half of what you got. But he had a 360 GoPro that videotaped all around him, or the equal amount, whatever it is. But hey, so it turned out that's actually really good too. What is that?
It's Steeple Ridge.
Steeple Ridge. If you see that, you guys should get some.
My neighbor brought that over to me on New Year's Eve. I've lived here for like 5 years, and I've talked to those neighbors a few times. Like his kid was graduated, their kid graduated in like 2020. Total side note, we'll come back. But their kid graduated last year, and we brought him over a card because I was like, man, we always heard him like playing his I don't know what instrument, saxophone, something.
No,
we always heard him practicing, so I knew he was in band and stuff. And so I saw him out there one day, and I was like, "Hey, man," I'm like, "You guys, what are you doing for graduation?" It's like it kind of just ended. Like there was no real graduation. I'm like, "Are you bummed, or is that cool?" And he's like, "Kind of." He's like, mostly because of band. We were looking forward to kind of having our last year and like doing stuff, but he's like, it is what it is. I'm like, that's cool. So we brought him a card over, and I think that was really one of the first times we talked to him too long. They gave us, I guess, when we had our daughter, they brought us over a gift and stuff. So we've had a few short interactions with him, but yeah, he came over on New Year's and he had this bottle and then a bottle of some like vanilla vodka. It's got like a vanilla bean like in there and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, I work at an alcohol distribution place. We had this big party today." He's like,
good friend to have.
"Yeah," he's like, "We got to have like an 8,000 bottle of champagne and stuff." Like,
tell him to bring some.
Yeah,
over my
like,
way.
all right. So he's like, "I didn't know if you wanted to try these." I'm like, "Dude, we do a podcast. We try bourbon all the time and stuff." I'm like, "Hell yeah!" So yeah, it was really good. I was impressed with it. So yeah, Steeple Ridge.
Yeah,
I think it's like made in Iowa or something.
It's really smooth though. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. And it's strong too.
It is strong.
So usually when I drink anything, I drink Crown.
It's 102 proof.
Yeah, so that's nice.
Yeah, I like it a lot. I was like, so where can I buy this though? Like,
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, no, the January 6th stuff, man. When that happened, I was so like, I don't remember dreams very often or have like very vivid dreams, but I had a dream that night. It was really weird and had a lot of like symbol. Like it was weird. When I do dream, they're normally pretty realistic, but this was like a weird kind of dream. And I woke up and I don't know how much I buy into like dream interpretation, but I kind of looked it up and it said something like you're conflicted about how you feel about something or something.
Yeah.
Like, that's right. Cause I was messaging people. I'm like, on the one hand, I'm fed up too, but at the same time, this is not the way to do stuff. Like I was kind of torn, but the more time that's passed away, I've seen them blow it out of proportion. There's pictures of people inside the velvet ropes, and then they're having vigils a year later. I'm like, you know what? The more you blow it out of proportion, the funnier it is.
Comparing it to 9/11 or saying it was the new darkest day in the U.S.
Or
history.
Pearl Harbor.
Yeah.
No, it's ridiculous,
dude.
And
It just makes me think it's more funny.
We've talked about that on here.
I tell people all the time, like, just wait. Next year, when Republicans take back power, this stuff's gone. All of it's gone.
Oh, yeah.
I won't vote for anything that's like, oh, let's make January 6th the new 9/11. No, I'm not voting for that. I'm voting against it because guess what? Who was injured? One person was killed.
That
There was
Ashley,
people. Ashley
Babbitt.
We talked about that.
One person was killed. Guess what? That's a normal day in the United States.
Oh,
Actually, that's minimal compared to what usually happens.
Oh, it'd be
Just
a
like
great day
COVID.
for St. Louis, even if only one person was killed.
Great. Let's give ourselves a round of applause.
Yeah, it would be
for St.
news
Louis.
for a new low.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying is, and it's terrible for her family, obviously,
Sure.
stuff like that. But these people, they didn't hurt anybody.
Right.
Did they break a couple windows? Yeah, that's bad. But guess what? You're charging the people who broke the windows, and they're getting these people they charge someone for illegal picketing. He's serving 5 years in prison for illegal picketing. What the hell is that? That's a made up, unprecedented, rule.
I've never heard that term
I think
ever.
What's so strange to me about it is kind of what I referenced earlier about how things are misremembered or framed. It's like the weirdest part about all that is they were trying to convince us how terrible this was. Like after a year of people rioting and burning down cities, that was considered protesting peacefully, and that's what I think is so.
But Maxine
strange.
Waters just telling people to beat up Republicans.
Yeah, that's some weird stuff.
Where get in their faces, see them. Wherever you see them, get in their faces, make noise, bring a crowd. Like what? And these people, they were a crowd in Washington at the People's House. Now, what they did was wrong. I'm not going to deny that.
Right.
Ever. What people entering the house and doing in the house was wrong. However, it's their house. It's the people's house.
That's
it's
kind of
about time that the people get it back.
That's kind of why I was conflicted, because I'm like, I really don't like the way you're doing it, but I mean, at the same time, I do believe enough is enough, and it's again, nobody got hurt, nothing got set on fire, nothing. I mean,
nothing got spray painted. What Nancy Pelosi sign got taken down? It should have been taken down 40 years ago when she first got elected. Let's be honest about it.
Sketching up a couple.
And what is let's go to that.
Yeah, I'll get that.
And while you're doing that,
so Keegan says, so about the police officers coming to your door, taking your guns. How do you feel about Missouri's bill that was signed to ban local law enforcement on federal gun laws?
Absolutely great bill. I supported Bill Eagle and all of them that signed this bill in Jeff City, and it's fantastic. It actually establishes ground rules, and not only can they not enforce federal gun laws, but they get charged right? They get fined if
Right.
they do, which is fantastic for the American people and Missouri, all Missourians in general. So I'm for it.
Yeah, we have a guy who I'm not going to name him because he's been weird about it lately, but he's been on our podcast before. But he was real concerned about that bill because I think his understanding of it at first was I think he understood the intention, but the fear was that if there was a murder where the state government needed federal assistance, they couldn't get it.
It's not true.
And I was like, I don't think that's true. And even if it's the case, I don't.
This bill was created to protect Missourians from federal overreach, right? And what I mean by that is the federal government says, hey, we're banning ARs. Well, now you're a criminal.
Right.
So if the police in St. Louis County came to your house to grab your AR, they don't have the right to do that. And if they do that, they're getting fined upwards of $50,000 for coming and taking your weapons illegally. So, but other than that, if it's still a federal crime or it's still a state crime that they need federal assistance, like a serial killer, right? Who's shooting people, execution style, they can still get the federal assistance, but they're not abiding by the radical plans to remove firearms.
For anyone who's not familiar, the law that we're referring to is the Second Amendment Preservation Act.
Yep.
It was passed by Missouri. Was that last year or 2 years ago?
It was last year.
Last year. And so it basically, like he said, prevents federal enforcement or state or local enforcement. No. I'm sorry. It does not prevent federal enforcement. If you happen across an ATF agent, that's
You're
bad
screwed.
luck.
Yeah,
but it prevents
That's
state and local law enforcement from enforcing federal laws, really similar to how a lot of states have legalized marijuana recreationally, even though it's still federally illegal. Is the state says we're not.
Can I jump in?
We're
on
not
that
playing
real
this. Yeah, go for
So
it.
that's one of my things I'm running for. And this gets people riled up all the time, right? And I like that, like I told you multiple times. So
It's more fun.
I want to federally legalize marijuana on the only condition that we remove sales tax and property tax at the state level.
Okay.
So the federal legalization. So let's go to California and Oregon. They've made 3 times their GDP in the past 10 years because of their legalization, right? So you're telling me Missouri can make 3 times their GDP by taxing the employer and the farms of marijuana, and then we can remove sales tax and property tax. Why should I have to pay every year to have my car registered that I own for roads that are broken?
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I'm saying? Why am I paying federal tax, sales tax, and state taxes? Why am I paying these taxes and then being taxed when I go to the store to spend money? We're getting taxed, and people will say, oh, it's 28%, oh, it's this. No, actually take $1. If you get paid $1, right, and I'm the federal government, he's state taxes, right? I'm the federal government. You got $1, I get 28 cents of it, right? You get 8 cents of it locally, right? So he got 8 cents, I got 20 cents, right? Well, now you live in St. Louis County, right? Well,
Jefferson.
Try to buy this glass for 50 cents. Well, I'm going to charge you 8 cents just for that, right? I'm going to charge you 8 cents. So now you had $1. You gave me 22 cents. You gave him 8 cents. That's 30 cents out of it, right? And then when you spend the money to buy this glass, I'm going to charge you another 7 cents, right? It's ridiculous. You're talking 37% of every dollar you make is getting paid right back to the people who are spending it on holding terrorists in prison, sentencing them to life.
I jump on board with the taxation as theft memes and stuff, but at the same time, that's why I'm not. That's what keeps me from being full on libertarianism. Like, I understand we have to have some kind of taxes and stuff, but nothing kills me like personal property tax, like paying for things. Like I literally own this. I paid tax when I bought it. I pay tax every year to license it. And now I'm paying just to own it.
You pay taxes every time you get gas in it too.
Oh my God, that just
Now you do.
kills me.
Which that's Parsons' fault, and that's why he's not getting reelected as governor. Sorry to tell you that, Parsons, if you're listening, but you're not getting reelected from this. Especially because he wanted to divide the
He's
state.
not listening.
He's not listening yet, but he'll go back and watch.
He'll see you later.
He'll see it some other time. He's like, God damn it.
This is for the record.
Yeah, it's for the
Yes,
record.
exactly.
Just let the record reflect that Parsons is not going to be the next governor of Missouri. Well, at least if I have anything to force on it. But yeah. So, anyways, the taxes I got endorsed by the Convention of States. I don't know if you heard of them. Basically, they want to create another constitutional convention of states to remove federal spending capabilities completely.
Ooh.
So only give the federal government the amount of money they need each year to maintain. They get nothing more. They can't make these build back better bills and everything else. No more. You can only spend a certain amount each year, and it's very, a lot of people are against it, but the Convention of States has been signed on by 28 states already. So
the only thing I'm against is the fact that our federal government needs someone to manage their money for them because they can't do it.
They can't do it
because it's literally one of your few jobs.
Exactly.
Just
and that's why we have to stop it now as the American people. Because guess what? 10 years from now, it's not us, it's our kids. Kids are the ones that, I don't know if you guys have kids. I have kids. I have 3 of them. Like in 10 years, they're going to be almost adults, right? They're going to be 16, 17 years old. And what am I here for,
Right.
That's why I'm doing the fighting now. And like I always tell people, I'm doing the fighting now so that my kids don't have to. I don't want them to have to do the same fight every single time. I mean, what's the taxes going to be in 10 years?
Yeah.
50%?
It really feels like a lot of things are coming to a head. I mean, it would both financially and with civil liberties and everything. I mean, it's hard to even picture a few years from now and that, fighting now. So you don't have to, I mean, it really seems like, and I know people have said it for years, and I really try not to be hyperbolic about it, but it really seems like the time to make it a legal fight, like get out and vote and that'll fix it, really seems like we're kind of coming down to the wire to where that's going to be a feasible option.
It shouldn't have taken this long. It should have been done 10 years ago. It should have been done 20 years ago. I mean, but now is the time. Like, this is our last ditch effort. And I say that as it's our last ditch effort to save the United States. And I mean that as in, if there was a revolution, I will be the first one on the battlefield. I will lead the charge if that's what it comes to. And I've said that publicly multiple times. Like, if that's what it comes to, that's where I'll be.
Yeah, we talked about it on our podcast one time. We're like, if it really comes down to the point where it's going to be some kind of fight, it's like it's going to be hard not to.
I don't want it to be
right. That's exactly. Yeah, that's what we were talking about a lot. Is that I know, especially being into guns, a lot of people have these like boogaloo fantasies, like they're going to be the next Rambo or something. It's like we talked about it one time. We're like, man, really picture what that means. Like that is not something anybody wants. I mean, it's fun to play and collect the stuff, but
what do you say?
Taking a few of these.
You're laughing, so let's see.
What are you looking at here?
Bottom one from Keegan.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, I'm ready to get to that one too. Rally Runner came in and commented. Keegan Edler, Tyler is great. High praise for him. Wesley likes him too.
Keegan had asked about.
What do you ask about?
If he knew, go up.
Oh, yeah. Well, let's see. It was in the. I did see him. Oh, yeah. He said, "Hey Wesley, do you know my boy Tyler Brenner?"
I do know Tyler. He's a great guy. I love Tyler to death.
Who's that?
So Tyler actually is the guy who cuts the grass for me. He's helped me a lot of times with the campaign. So we've donated a food truck that we have for the campaign, right?
Oh, that's cool.
We donated it to help a group of patriots here in Missouri honor veterans, if that makes sense. So it's a group that honors veterans. It's named the Missouri Proud Patriots. They honor veterans and first responders. We donated our truck one time, and Tyler came in clutch. He helped me build the truck myself, and he helped me run it for the Proud Patriots event. Like, we sat there and we shuffled some brats and hot dogs.
Oh, wow, that's cool.
So he's a great guy. I love him to death, man.
Okay, so yeah, this Rally Runner comment, Tyler is great. High praise for him. I forgot they can see each other's comments.
Yeah. I don't even know where this is at. Is this on Facebook?
Those are on Facebook, yeah.
Okay.
Keegan says, let's say Wesley was president right now. What's his first step besides banning the ATF? Oh, and then let's see, just in case it's asked to it. After abolishing ATF. Okay, yeah, same thing.
All right, well, Keegan, let me tell you, the first thing is I will never run for president because you have no power as president. And I'm not in it for power, but I'm in it to make a difference.
Right, yeah. That's like we were talking about earlier.
I mean, they talk about law and order all the time in this country, right? Well, what is law and order? Like, let's break it down. What is law and order? Law is the duty of the legislative body. Order is the duty of the judicial body, right? So the job to create laws and prevent bad things from happening is the job of Congress, the legislative body. Order is the job to maintain the order is the Justice Department, right? Supreme Court, stuff like that. Well, who's the one who enforces it? That's obviously the police. So when you say you're for law and order, you're not for the police because you say you're law and order. You're for Congress and you're for the judicial system working through the processes to establish the precedents, to maintain that. Well, who actually enforces it is the police. I'm for the police, obviously, right?
Sure.
But I'm also for law and order. So I'm for the legislative body coming together to create bills that benefit the American people. But if people want to break those rules that are established in the legislative body, then that's the judicial branch's duty, their solemn obligation to the American people to charge these people or maintain a state of order. And that's why law and order is a big thing for me. But a lot of people get confused. They think, oh, I'm for law and order, I'm for police. No, that's not the same thing. They're completely different.
For sure.
And so anyways, I'll never run for president because president is the executive. The president's only job is to handle foreign affairs, right?
Yeah, probably.
And to handle disputes between states, right? So foreign affairs, disputes between states, and then his job is to veto bills that are passed by the legislative body.
Right.
So with that being said, I'll never run for president ever in my life. Maybe governor. I might take Parsons' job if he keeps acting like a fool. But
that actually brings up a good question because it's another one I plan to ask you. We've been talking a lot of nitty gritty, but you personally. So when you decided to run, you talked about why earlier, but I've tried to imagine before. Not that I've thought about it, but I've thought before what my family would think if I decided to run for office. But did your family just go nuts, or were they kind of behind it? Or
no, they're not. I tell you what, man. I tell you. So
you faked me out at first. He's like, no.
First, they're like I said, it started as a joke, so like they didn't really think anything of it. Well, now that we're getting all this backing and stuff, like they're like, oh man, like you're in the public eye. Like my mom, I love my mom to death. She's the greatest woman I've ever met in my time. And a lot of people say, oh, my mom's the greatest. No, my mom is actually the greatest.
That's awesome.
Well, let me tell you, she is real big on like protecting anything that I do wrong. She's like, oh, we gotta stop this. We gotta, we gotta hide this, But my mom's great, and she's one of my biggest supporters, other than my dad. My dad's really great at it. He always, he's always sharing my stuff and liking my stuff. But no, most of my family, because I attacked. So I have 3 sisters that are in some sort of teaching ability, right?
Sure.
Like they're teachers here, and I go after the teachers unions. I go after the school districts. They're not big fans of that.
Sure.
So it's just how it is.
Yeah.
And that's so when I got picked up by the America First PAC, they asked me, they're like, well, so a lot of people don't know my fiance, she's actually more moderate libertarian. And when I say moderate libertarian, she doesn't believe in communism or socialism.
Sure.
But she's not a Democrat. She believes in like, oh, we should have free healthcare for all. Well, it sounds good in theory, but it's not practical.
Right.
But anyways, so when I say that, I was asked by them, they said, well, a happy wife, happy life. Like, what would you do? I was like, I'll tell her to get lost. I did it multiple times, with my wife in Afghanistan, that I will do it again. Like, for me, my duty on this earth, right, my God-given right and my God-given duty is to protect this country and its constitution. I have nothing else to stand for. I'm not asking for money, I don't ask for money from anybody.
For sure.
I'm offering to donate money to people. Like, I have no other right than to protect this country so that way my kids can grow up at 18 years old and be able to go to college, be able to read a book, be able to do. So I've been to 44 countries, right, throughout the entire world, right? I've been to 48 states. All I want is my kids to be happy, Yeah. And if they can be happy, I'm happy. And if I can give them the opportunity to succeed in life, I'm going to do it. Who's not,
Absolutely. Yeah.
So it's not because inner city or projects, or it's none of that. It's because a parent who's willing to fight now for their kids to be successful. So don't tell me that it's, politically motivated or anything like that.
Right. That's kind of what I was getting into earlier is, I don't know. Again, especially on this channel and a lot of our stuff. Let's see. Oh, hey.
Get out, Wagner.
Alexa says, get Ann Wagner out.
That's a plan.
Happy spouse, happy house.
Hey, that's not a lie either.
Yeah, most of the time it's best
But
when that can be the
sometimes
case
you
for
gotta
sure.
you gotta change the system a little bit. You know?
Yeah, it's okay to disagree. A lot of times, I have never tried to talk my wife into agreeing with exactly what I think, and I think when we started going out and getting serious and stuff, I don't know that she had too many serious views, and she still doesn't follow politics super closely. But there's a lot of times it's stupid. Sometimes I almost get kind of proud. She'll like ask me a question like, "Why do we have to do this?" And I'm like, "That's a great question."
Yeah.
At least you're asking the right questions. I don't have the answer exactly. But anyway, yeah, that's kind of what I was starting to say is getting into earlier is because this channel and me personally is mostly 2A type stuff. And I love what you said earlier. You don't have to break up and protect certain rights if you just stick up for the Constitution. It's all kind of in there. But because that's most of what comes up, that's a lot of what I hear is like, again, a lot of people who I think believe they're doing the right thing, but it's like, are you really willing to? Okay, let me back up a little bit. When a shooting happens or something like that, and a lot of times I don't know that there is an answer that, well, how do you stop it if you're not going to get rid of guns? How do you stop it? And a lot of times, like, I don't know that you can. I mean, if someone decides to do something like that, I don't know what there is you can do about it without infringing on people's rights.
Even if you ban guns, is it going to stop shootings? No,
Right.
It's not.
But I mean, even if you could, like, let's just go with somebody's fantasy and say you could effectively get rid of all of them and
okay,
that's
then
it.
Guess what? People are going to start stabbing each
They're
other.
going to
with
use
kitchen
something
knives,
else,
butter
and I don't
knives.
think it's right. And I think people have the right to, and it's kind of like you said earlier. There's collateral, and as horrible as I can acknowledge that sounds horrible. Is that some of these things are going to happen? That's collateral of freedom. That's stuff like that happens. But so, like I said, moving forward, when people are like, you're really willing to let stuff like that happen so you can keep your toys and stuff, and it's like, it's not just about that. Again, that's the thing that applies to me, but it's about all of them. And yeah, it's hard to picture what a world in 20, 30 years looks like if things keep going the way they're going.
I can promise you this, Sam Page isn't in that world. But all jokes aside, though, so with Second Amendment and all this stuff, like, the protection is going to be done. Like, there's enough veterans in this community, and not even just this community, in the country. There's more veterans than there is active duty that will not stand for it, right? Like, they will not take them removing guns. So when I tell people, if you vote people that stand for the Constitution, you're voting for Second Amendment, pro-life. You're voting for border security. You're voting for all this if they stand for the Constitution.
Right.
Now, if you vote for people who aren't standing for the Constitution, well, you're going to get what you want. But you're also seeing them people. They're wearing, fishnet stockings and their wieners hanging out. So, I mean, come on, let's be honest here. That's what they're doing right now. And let me tell you, those people, I'm not so positive, but they're not going to be able to shoot a firearm like I can.
That.
You know what I'm saying?
He knows, because it's more of a private. We haven't really talked about it on the podcast, but it has been a private thought. Is as much as some of the small stuff, like for example, when I was talking earlier about, I don't even think I finished the thought earlier, but when I was talking about how I wasn't a huge Trump fan, we lost more gun rights under Trump than we have so far under Biden with bump stocks and stuff, which those are goofy. Don't use those anyway. So I wasn't that bummed out.
Full auto is what
Yes,
you're saying.
yes, exactly. But what the hell was I? Oh, so yeah, I used to panic a little more about like, oh man, like we're right on the edge of losing this or whatever. And some of it is kind of a pain in the neck, but do you remember we talked about it? I was like, I kind of hit a point. I'm like, they're not going to ban AR-15s. And if they do, it's not going to matter. Like, shit's going to get so crazy that that law doesn't matter.
They're not going to do anything. And that's why I tell people all the time, when they talk to me about Senate races, right, specifically in today's day, here in St. Louis County, and they ask me, I say, Mark McCloskey, he's doing it for publicity. Like, glad you held your AR the wrong way, right?
Right.
Like, come on, let's be honest. He's doing it for publicity. He's an attorney, but he pleaded guilty to brandishing a firearm. No, that was private property. Why are you doing that? Why are you sitting here? I'm for the Second Amendment, but you just pleaded guilty to a brandishing a firearm charge and paid $750 fine? Like, no. So anyways, he's a flopper. He's going to flip, right? He's going to get into office, and he's going to be a little Mitch McConnell friend, which Mitch McConnell is going to be gone at this time. So he's going to be friends with nobody.
Thank God.
So yeah, exactly. But so no, here's the thing. Mark McCloskey, and I hope he listens to this because Mark McCloskey, I got his phone number. I'm not going to give it to you guys, but he's a joke. He's not actually running for office for. I'm here for the Second Amendment. Stand with me and Patricia like I did for you guys. No, you didn't stand because you pleaded guilty. You know.
I didn't know that. Yeah, that's.
He pleaded guilty. He paid a $750 fine for brandishing a firearm. No, that was private property. You can't be charged for brandishing a firearm. You are just as corrupt as the next guy. And that comes to the last two candidates that I have, which is Eric Schmidt and Eric Greitens. I love them both. Eric Greitens is a good friend of mine. I like him. I like what he stands for. I like Eric Schmidt and what he stands for. But Eric Schmidt can do more good as an attorney, right? With a Missouri bar, he can do more good here in Jefferson City, protecting the Missouri citizens from within, right? There's not much he can do in Congress as a one person, right?
Right.
Whereas Greitens, who is a governor but doesn't have a law license, he can do a lot in Washington and in the Senate. That's why I support Greitens 100%. I love Eric Schmidt. I think he does a great job, but he does a great job here in Missouri. Just like Ron DeSantis. Ron DeSantis of Florida, everyone's like, oh, we want Ron DeSantis to be our next president. No, we don't. He is fighting the regime of evil and the devil up there in Washington, right, from Florida. So he's protecting Floridians and along with that, Americans in general from the regime of evil up in Washington as a governor. He does more good as a governor than he can do with the executive privilege of a veto.
I was going to ask you how you felt about Ron DeSantis because he's a guy that obviously has gotten a lot of attention with the COVID stuff, but he seems to be pretty much every time I hear one of his quotes, I'm like, yep.
He's great, man. I tell you, Ron DeSantis is my man. I support him 1,000%. I support Eric Greitens, and I support Eric Schmidt if he ran for Attorney General again. He's running for Senate, but I also think that's far-fetched because Eric Greitens won the state before, and I think he's going to win it again. And he's got my support. He's got, America's support, and we need someone like Eric Greitens going in there and fighting from within, just like we need Eric Schmidt fighting here in Missouri so I'm not an attorney. Now I'm in school to be a lawyer. Eric Greitens is an attorney. Mark McCloskey is an attorney, but just a very bad one. That's why he's running for Senate. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, Mark McCloskey, let's not even include him in the race. Let's put a wall right there. And we got Schmidt and we got Greitens. Schmidt, we need him here in Missouri as our attorney general. Because what are we going to get? Ken Gardner?
Oh, God.
Ken Gardner's let 26 murderers out in the past year.
Some of these, I don't know. Her and Cori Bush, both as far as local people, I'm like, what?
Cori Bush is next level.
It's so embarrassing.
Ridiculous. I know. We need to actually just cut St. Louis out of Missouri and give it to East St. Louis, Illinois. You guys can have this land. Take Cori Bush with you too. She's terrible.
Yeah, when I was looking up your district, I really, like I said, I voted, but most of the time, and like I said, here I'm kind of contradicting myself with the be sure to vote local and pay attention. Most of the time, as far as those candidates, I go straight to get, most of the time it's not even enough. That's a part when I reject the Republican label. Most of the time it's because it's not even conservative enough for me. I'm like, it's better than Democrat, but anyway, I had to look up where I was even. I barely fall within your district because
you're right on the line.
When you go to look up who your congressperson is, you punch in your zip code first.
Yep.
And I punched in my zip code,
address.
and it was based on your zip code, you could be either Ann Wagner or Cori Bush. And I was like,
so
please God.
We got here the new map and the old map, right? So what they kind of did here, right? They changed the map. If you could tell, they took all this area and they cut us out of the lower end, right? If you see the map difference.
So is this the second district?
This is the second district, but this is the new map, right? So This is the old map. We had 5 sectors before. Now we have 6 sectors of where we're going. Well, they put me and a couple other people were like, oh, for sure they're going to push us further south into Jefferson County. We're going to win this no matter what. Well, then they push us north to St. Charles.
Mind if I take a look at this one too?
Yeah, compare them next to each other, and you'll see they push us way north. And look at how much difference the map is. We got all this southern area down here in Augusta.
Yeah.
So with that being said, right, these are the difference in maps.
Northwest, like
It's crazy. So what happened was
it's actually lost some of the like South, like Arnold.
we did. We lost some of the southern districts. However, Arnold's still going to be in the district, right?
Oh, is it?
Richardson Road's the cutoff instead of Vogel.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry, 141 instead of Vogel.
Oh, okay.
Right there, right? So 141 by Fox High School and all that's still going to
Right.
be second district. Third district's going to start, which Brandon Williams, let's go Brandon on Facebook. So I have to. Brandon Williams is a good friend of mine. He's going to win, no doubt about it. Blaine Ludemeyer sucks. Anyways, but so they cut us off.
Real quick, Keegan says Corey loves Kim Gardner. He told me.
Oh, I'm sure he does. But yeah, they cut us off down there in the Southern District, and they added St. Charles. So before we were like, well, we need 35,000 votes to win the primary. 65,000 people voted. We need 35. Right? That's more than half. Well, then we had another guy jump in, Paul Berry, who he's not going to win, but he jumped in the election just now, and he thinks he's going to win, right? Because it's got North County and St. Charles, Ferguson area, right? Who's part of our district.
Real quick, we'll have to put these up somewhere. I don't know a good way to get them on camera, but
No, we're good. We're good.
Yeah, we'll list those up.
They
Are
can
those,
see them on
those on your website?
So once I leave here tonight, I'm going to actually work with the website guy. He's rebuilding our website tonight.
Okay.
So hopefully
Cool.
tomorrow
Yeah.
it'll be set up and ready. So right now we have a website, but so we tried to donate on our website. We're like, well, let's just see if the donation's still working on our website. And we get on there and it won't let you donate under $500.
Under 5? Won't let you.
It won't let you. And I was like, that's pretty wrong. I was like, I wonder why we haven't got donations for the past few months. I was like, because no one's donating $500.
That's pretty hefty. Yeah.
So, anyways, there it was like, yeah, you can't donate under margin greater or under 500. I was like, no wonder we're not getting donations because this website's messed up. So I called the website guy yesterday and I was like, we need to fix this tonight. And he's like, well, I'll be up till like 2 a.m. So let's come over and we'll see what we can do. So we're gonna fix that. But these will be on the website as soon as we're done. Now, with that being said, with the third candidate jumping in, it benefited us greatly because Ann Wagner would have got the votes up there in North County and St. Charles. Now we don't have to worry about that because there's a third candidate who won't get any of South County where we're at, or West County where Wildwood, Eureka, Pacific is, because they're primarily Republican farms, stuff like that. People with high acreage that don't want to pay property tax.
Sure.
So we're going to get their votes, and right now we're looking at such a blowout win in this primary that it's going to be fun.
Oh, good.
It's going to be fun, and it's going to hurt. It will hurt a lot of the Republican people here locally. They're going to get mad, but here's the thing: I wouldn't work with them before, and then whenever they want to work with me after the primary, it's not going to happen. I'm going to tell them to get lost.
Yeah, good. So, do you have to live, I guess, in the district you're running for? Okay. Yeah, I figured.
And I live like right here.
You never know.
I live right off Revis Barracks. Anyone can usually see me. My truck's out there, which has my name and my face all over it. And then I have a car too, so like I'm usually, if you wanted to, you could drive right by my house. I live right on the road, like a high traffic road, and I just do what
This makes privacy a little difficult. We got one here. I guess we kind of talked about it earlier, but Alexis asks, what's your stance on the COVID vaccine?
There's a COVID vaccine? I'm 100% against it, just to be honest. Like, I don't stand for that whatsoever. Individual liberties is what I stand for. Obviously, like I said before, the Constitution. We need people that will fight for the Constitution. Not anything else, no private agendas. If you stand as the Constitution's written in stone and not a living document, then you have my support when you're running for office. So with that being said, I stand on the Constitution and individual liberties. No mandates, mask or otherwise.
That's what I was going to ask. I guess by against it, you mean the mandates.
Mandates, mandates, because it goes against individual liberties. Now, guess what? If you have an autoimmune disease, stay home. Why should you affect the 80% of Americans that don't have underlying conditions?
Right.
Because you're scared to go out. Guess what? It's not my fault. Don't go to Walmart. I don't care. Or go to Walmart at a different time. If I'm going to Walmart and I'm not wearing a mask, but I'm vaccinated, which I'm not, by the way, and I won't get vaccinated because my doctor told me otherwise. My doctor, who I've been with for multiple years, right? So, no, I'm not. I'm 100% against it. No vaccines. My kids don't have vaccines. My kids won't wear masks, which is why I went against the school districts in this area too, because I'm sick of it. I'm tired of it.
Yeah, my stand. I know people who have gotten vaccinated, and the way they tell me, I swear, it's like, it's how I imagine a child of mine telling me they're pregnant or something. He's like, a few people now have been like, don't be mad at me. And I'm like, what? Like, I got the vaccine.
It's like
I'm not going to be mad at you. I don't care if you want it, go get it.
People come out to me, and I say come out because it's like they're gay,
Right? Yeah, it's like
again, here's that stance on that. I don't care if you're gay. It's not my responsibility to judge you. That's God's job, right? That's how I look at it. So with that being said, these people are like, I promise, man, like it's not that bad. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, well, I got the vaccine. Well, I'm sorry you're gay, man. Like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. Hey, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's not my fault. I don't care. It's not my job to judge you because you got the vaccine. It's my job to say, well, I don't care.
Yeah, that's most of the time. Yeah, I'm like, I'm good. If you feel like you need it, I guess do your thing. I mean, I have no intent. What's funny, I was thinking this the other day because they're starting this new thing to try to get people like pushing it again. I'm like, who in the hell at this point doesn't have it? That's going to be talked into it easily. Like, if you don't have it at this point, you don't want it.
It's just weird to me that public or personal health decisions have gotten this public.
Right? Like, when the hell? Like, so you're on birth control? Like, I mean, like, why the hell is this such?
Here's the thing. Here's what I got to ask you. Why are people who are unelected creating laws in this state? In this, not even in the state, but in this country?
That's a great
These
question.
bureaucrats have no power. We went back. Well, let's go back to law and order. The law's duty is of that of the legislative body. The order's duty is that of the judicial branch. Bureaucrats from the CDC and who made up false claims to begin with, they have no duty.
She says, wow.
Hey, I'm sorry, Alexis. But they have no duty. They don't have no job. Dr. Khan, who's not even a medical doctor, really, he's probably got a doctorate in idiocracy. That's what I really think he does. So with that being said, Dr. Khan here in St. Louis County, who affects the majority of us, he has no doctorate in any medical, program. Why is he the one in charge of the health department? I can tell you it's because Sam Page is friends with him. And nepotism is key when it comes to hiring people for more than they're worth.
Sure.
So it gets crazy. And that's what I tell people all the time. Politics is a crazy game, and I never wanted to be part of it. But now that I am part of it, I'm here to spill the beans. I'm like, you can't believe what these people are saying, man. Like,
I know he's going to want to know about JFK as soon as you can find out.
Yeah, as soon as I find out, man, it's live. It's live stream. Now, I got some other high publicity topics that I'm not going to talk about right now. But once I get in office, because I got to win first.
Oh, yeah.
But once I get in, when it comes to Afghanistan specifically, there's a lot of corruption that went into that. And I was part of it. And I know specifically, like, details of it. And I'm going to be releasing it once I get in office.
This is kind of just a general wondering, but I don't know if you'd be aware yet or not. But say you win and you get in. Is there anything that bars you from having your own kind of publication or website or anything that
not
shares
that,
some
no.
of this? I mean, I'm sure, obviously, like I was joking, but I'm sure some of the stuff, not like, Missouri 2nd Congressional District gets all the JFK files. But yeah, I didn't know if there's any kind of.
Well, that's the thing. So when
bars
I
you
was in
from-
the military, I had a TS clearance anyways. And in my personal opinion, the JFK thing wasn't set up. But you never know what you find out. The more you deep, the more the money comes prevalent, and you actually realize where this money went. So
Right.
that's a big one.
I want to start we'll see if we can do in the chats. I don't know if we're going to start a debate here, but hell, we'll do it. It's Alexis again. She said, are your kids vaccinated for just general vaccinations?
Yeah, my kids have general vaccinations, but they'll never have a COVID vaccine.
I'm not even against it down the road when it's a proven. This would just, I guess the thing was, everybody at first was, no, if it comes out during Trump's administration, I won't get it. And now you're wondering why there's a vaccine hesitancy. I'm like, you did this.
No.
But at the same time, I not to cut you off, I look at the COVID vaccine kind of the same way as I do a flu shot at this point, because I don't have any problems. I had, I didn't know it at the time. I found out later that I had gotten COVID in July of 2020, and I had the sniffles for like 3 days.
Yep.
I felt like a sinus infection is what I thought I had, because I remember saying, I'm like, man, it feels like a weird time of year to be getting like a sinus infection kind of thing. And after that, nothing. And I'm like, to me, like kind of the same as a flu shot. I don't have anything against the flu shot. People go get the flu shot. I don't
get the flu shot.
I don't give you crap, but I don't go
I
get
got
it
sick
because
last time I got it, and that was 3 years ago, and the Army never made me get it again because of how sick I got.
right.
So they never made me get it. Now, my doctor, who's a cardiologist, right? I have a heart condition called ventricular fibrillation. Anyone can look it up. But I have syncope, right, where my heart drops, beats, and raises too fast that causes me to pass out, right? My doctor said, don't get the vaccine because the myocarditis, whatever
it is. Yeah.
whatever it is, but basically where it causes your heart to inflame. They said, you have a heart condition, we don't want you to get it right now.
Yeah.
Just wait, because men ages 25 to 32 are getting this. I'm not
Joe
going to
Rogan
get
talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I read a lot about that.
So a doctor who I've known for 5 years tells me not to get it, or listen to Dr. Fauci, who I've never met, who's an idiot.
And hasn't
Well,
practiced
and, you know,
on a patient in 30 years.
Or myocarditis.
Myocarditis or something.
Carditis. It's basically the inflammation of the heart.
Alexa's back again. Okay, cool. Okay.
So now my kids, they have all their vaccines, and if they get the flu shot, which if they do, which they haven't gotten yet because they just started school, if they do get it and they have side effects, guess what?
They're not
I'm not going to
next
give it to them again.
Right.
You know, that's just how it works.
Exactly.
You know, it doesn't make any sense, especially. And my daughter, and I want Alexis to be aware of this. My daughter has severe asthma. Like we're talking on life support asthma.
Oh wow.
She's been on life support here at the hospital and the children's hospital downtown. So, and it wasn't like just a couple. It was 21 days.
Oh wow.
Right. So
that's scary.
I give her the vaccines that she needs. But if she's going to get sick because of a vaccine, which she got the flu shot the year she got the flu, pneumonia, and what's the other one that she got? RSV.
Bronchitis? Oh.
She got all three of them at once, and she ended up on life support. And she had the flu shot. So, and I'm not saying the flu shot gave it to her. I would never say that. I'm just saying she got all these symptoms even though she had the flu shot.
Right.
Right. So now, of course, there's going to be hesitancy based on that. And my kids, they get what they need, but they're not going to be forced into something that they don't need, which would be mask mandates and COVID vaccination, especially when it's not proven. The flu shot's been around for 3 decades.
Right.
Why are we going to go for something that's been around for a year, you know, and be like, oh, all you kids get it. And if you don't get it, you can't go to school? Like, no.
Especially when you look at the numbers and how kids are. I mean, we say kid, anyone under 25. I mean, I'm still 24, so I'm still in that.
But, Corey, let me ask you this. How do we fix those numbers?
No, I'm just saying the numbers are so – COVID is such a non-factor to anybody under the age of 25 unless you have these extreme pre-existing conditions. But
which at that point you should be pretty careful anyway.
Well, we can fix these numbers by not getting tested. Who gives a shit? If you think you're sick, stay home.
Well, and hospitalization is the same way. So, like, we know somebody, like you said, I don't want to name any names. We know somebody who had a sore throat and called their doctor, and they're like, well, it sounds like it's probably COVID. The hospital's full of, or like the beds are full at the moment. So stay home. And then when a bed opens up, we'll call you. I'm like, for a sore throat? At that point, like, you're basically hospitalizing someone over a sore throat, but he's okay to stay home in the meantime.
And this is no offense to hookers, but you can have a sore throat from doing too much other things. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's be honest, COVID has a lot of symptoms that are similar to those who work the streets. Let's be honest about it, you know?
Now we know what he really has.
Now we know. You know, you never know until you know.
Keegan says, how does Wesley feel about the decriminalization of all drugs, kind of like what Portland did? And I know what he's talking about. It's not like just Colorado.
He's not talking about marijuana.
He's talking about heroin
all of it. And guess what, Keegan? It's completely corrupt. It's an insider deal because guess who's going to control the drug distribution in that area? The federal government's going to control it. They're going to be the ones distributing meth, heroin, all the other things because they can make the money off of it.
It's kind of like we talked about the thing with Afghanistan. Honestly, like I said, I've said before, and I don't think I'll ever get to go this far, but not just for weed legalization personally, but really everything. I'm like, if you want to shoot something into your arm, you know what?
It's not my job to stop you.
Exactly. So I would say I'm for the decriminalization, but like we were talking about with Afghanistan, is the way it's handled. Like you said, like okay, we'll decriminalize weed and put this tax on it, and you have to get it from a certain place. And it's like, that's not decriminalization.
No.
That's the same thing as, again, tying everything back to what this whole channel is. It's like the same thing with like SBRs and suppressors, where it's like, it's not really illegal. It's legal if you pay us enough, like with the tax stamps or something.
Yep.
You can have it as long as you
It's
fork
not
over
illegal
enough money.
to have a suppressor. Like, they make it illegal if you don't have a tax stamp. But guess what?
Yeah, if you pay enough money and it's perfectly
And I'll
legal.
be honest, I don't have a tax stamp. They come search my house.
You don't
they'll
have a
find
suppressor
quite a few
either,
of
though.
them. I
I
have
want
a
to do that
suppressor.
for you. What?
I got a couple of them.
Oh, shit.
You won't be in trouble. It's fine.
You speak for yourself. Let's see. Alexis.
I thought this was called Unsuppressed. What are we doing here? What are we doing?
Exactly, because I don't have a stamp. It's unsuppressed.
I don't
Let's see.
believe a mandate for vaccines. I feel like it's your freedom to choose if you want. Yeah, exactly. Why
Okay,
should
so she's talking about general vaccines, I guess.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
But-
Oh, shoot. We're going to lose everything. Hang on. Give us a second.
we're down, guys?
Oh, boy.
Oh, we're back.
We're back? Okay,
Hey,
hopefully everyone can
Alexis.
hear us.
Alexis, here's the truth of where my stance is, and this should be honest with you. It's not my job to tell if you have a period or not. I shouldn't have to tell you to put a tampon in. It's your job, not mine. So I tell everyone, people should have their own individual liberties to do what they choose. If you want to put a tampon in or you want to leak through your pants, it's not my fault. And so that's where I stand.
I wasn't sure where that analogy was going at first, but you know what?
I mean, but you go around looking at people and say, hey, you definitely need a tampon.
I mean, hey.
That's not my job. That's not my job to put a mask on your face or put a tampon in whatever.
Yeah, I'm
You
for
know?
it. I like it. Keegan says again, like you guys were talking about earlier, a lot of people stuck in the criminal system have drug felonies, though, and can't escape the system because of that.
And we're gonna fix that, Keegan. I promise you. Like even if I don't get elected this term, right, I will continue to fight until the changes for all Americans are created. If someone else does it for me, I don't have any problems. I won't ever run again. I'm retired right now, retired Army. I don't ever have to work. Now, if someone else creates the laws and does what needs to be done for the American people,
All
I'm
for
done.
it?
I'm good. Now, if no one else is going to do it, I'm going to do it from the inside. So I'm going to fix that because there's no reason that someone with a drug charge should not be allowed to vote or own a firearm or do anything to
Yeah, it's
better
crazy.
their life to stop them from going back into the system. They can't even apply for a job without having to report their felony. So if we seal those records, it's all good.
Especially when the point of the prison system is supposed to be rehabilitation.
Exactly.
Right.
Well, that's what they told us it's about while paying $83,000 a year per prisoner.
Right. Congrats, you're rehabilitated now. You can never have any freedoms again.
Yes, exactly. But if you get pulled over for blowing past that stop sign, we're going to arrest you. We're going to tell you that you had drugs in your car. And it's crazy. These people, and I hear a lot of stories. It's not just the one, but that was the primary example of what made me want to fix this problem is from the one story that I heard at the VFW. And I've heard many others since.
Sure.
A lot of them come from people who just make stuff up, and I'm just like, yeah, well, everything, even the evidence. Whenever I file a FOIA request, right? Even the evidence that were submitted during the case, like prove you're guilty. Hey, I didn't do it. Well, it's very hard to.
You might have.
You might. Yeah, exactly. You might have. What do we
Let's
got here?
Keegan says, isn't that kind of just decriminalizing all drug kind of targets, though?
It's not, Keegan. It's not, because you're still going to get arrested for doing drugs or selling drugs or whatever, and you're still going to go to jail. But when you get out, you have the ability to be free again.
I guess I got a little. I think I'm catching up, but I guess whether it's his question or not, I guess what's your stance on just decriminalizing drugs? Like we said earlier, like if you
I'm
want
not talking about decriminalizing drugs because we need to get fentanyl, methanol, and everything else off the street.
okay,
I'm talking about the federal legalization of marijuana is separate than that of cocaine, fentanyl, meth, anything else you do.
right,
So with that being said, marijuana is proven a lot of benefits for people with
Sure.
PTSD, with cancer, with glaucoma, everything else. Like these are proven benefits of it over the past 20 years. So I'm not saying all drugs should be legal, but I'm saying, say you'd sell me cocaine, a kilo, right? You sold me that.
you weren't supposed to tell anyone, but yeah,
But you sold me, Kyle sold me a kilo, not literally, metaphorically speaking. He gets arrested, right? You get arrested for it. You serve your 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is, right?
Sure.
You get out. It's not the government's job to watch you. No, you're a free person. You
Right.
served your debt to society, right? It's your turn to be free. Why are we still holding you back by every time you get pulled over for,
Sure.
anything, you're going right back to, well, he's a felon. No, he's not a felon. He served that debt to society. He's not a felon anymore. He's a free man.
Right. The place where I would think that maybe the history would matter is with violent criminal, like, people who have a history of abuse or something. They commit violence again, then it's like, okay, you kind of showing a pattern here. But yeah, I guess kind of like Keegan was saying, and that's what I'm saying, is for me, even fentanyl and all that stuff, I'm torn on it, because there's times where I'm like, you know what, if that's what you want to do, I mean, you see what happens to people. If that's what you feel like doing,
and to be honest, I don't care.
You don't care if they do it, or you don't care?
I don't care what people do, because that's their right as an American.
Okay, that's what I'm
Free.
saying. Yeah,
They're
just
free.
go ahead and do it.
Same thing. I don't care if you're gay. I don't care if you do drugs. I don't care. That's not my job. My job isn't to judge you for what you've done. You know whose job that is? That's God's job. When you get to heaven, and if you're gay, and by biblical terms, it's a sin, right? It's not my job to judge you because you're gay and prevent you from living your life a free person. That's not my job. That's God's job when you get there. So if you want to be gay and you want to get married to your best friend and do whatever, that's great. You're happy. You lived your life. God's going to judge you, not me. Same thing with drugs. I'm not here to judge you. I'm here to uphold the law and create laws, but it's not my job to say, well, guess what? You did fentanyl one time, you overdosed, you got arrested. That's not my.
I've run into a lot of people who think that they can, like, because morality aside, like I really do believe in that separation of church and state. So what any of us believe is right or wrong, I don't think should matter legally. And I've run into a lot of people who really like, I've literally heard the mindset like, well, not everyone's gonna. It was actually regarding gay marriage that they were like, well, people aren't going to come to this on their own, so you can kind of help them along by outlawing it. And I'm like, I'm not sure how that should work. Like,
why
should I do what you want to do? Because just because it's wrong to you or to anybody,
exactly.
That's
not my job. That's not your job. That's not his job. We're not God. We're not Jesus. We're nothing. We work for the people. Why should we sit here and say, oh, you can't be gay? Like, that's my
literally, yeah.
But you have Republicans in office that say that,
right? And that's why, like I said, most of the time, if I vote Republicans, because I think it's the better of the two options. I'm not normally fully on board with him either.
Speaking, it is a little bit better, but I say a little bit because there's some people who I would, if it was my choice, they'd be gone.
Well, there's a lot of times in 10 years that Republican choice is going to be the same thing as today's Democrat choice. So.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so I guess the decriminalization of pretty much any drugs, like I said, is the same thing to me. I would never think about putting fentanyl anywhere near me, seeing what it does to people.
I would never support a bill that legalized all drugs.
I guess that's a difference, and that's like I was saying about suppressors and SBRs earlier. I know it seems like a weird parallel, but there's a difference between legalizing, because the legalization of something is creating a new law that makes it legal, as opposed to just decriminalizing it, which gets rid of the law that makes it illegal in the first place. If that makes any sense.
It does. Yep.
So I guess that's the point. Is a lot of times I feel like people talk about passing new laws as opposed to repealing existing laws, and so I don't think there needs.
The problem is we don't ever repeal the old laws.
It never happens. People talk about it. Yeah,
that's the issue with Obamacare.
Right.
Go back. And I know it's completely different guns and healthcare, but it's not.
We draw a lot of parallels. Yeah.
Because Democrats run for coverage for the masses, right? The most amount of people that can be covered in healthcare, the better. Well, it's not true. What if we made healthcare so much cheaper that people could afford it, right? And I'll get to a specific point that you can do today if you have diabetes, right? But I'm getting there. Sure. So I wrote a huge article about cost versus coverage, right? Is what it's called. It's like a Supreme Court case, but it's not. It's one that I created inside myself using statistics, right? 80% of all healthcare costs that the United States pay from taxpayer funds is self-induced, right? Unhealthy eating, unhealthy diets, right? Unhealthy exercise, heart disease, diabetes, stuff like that is the biggest cause of healthcare spending.
Are you just sitting here like shit?
No, hey,
I'm just kidding. I don't have any of those yet. But
I ate steak and shake yesterday and pizza.
I was like,
but I'm saying it's self-induced.
Right,
medical costs, right? Whether that be you have Medicaid and you get pregnant. Well, guess what? You had sex with that person. And now the taxpayers are funding that medical procedure for you to have your baby, which I'm for. I'm for helping people who need help, but I'm not for helping people who cause self-induced harm.
Right.
And then get paid for it forever. So with that being said, it's 80%. It's cost versus coverage, and Democrats run for coverage where Republicans run for cost. Now get ready for this. It's gonna blow your socks off. You can go to Walmart tonight, right? You can buy over-the-counter insulin for $25 a jar, like $25 a vial, and I can't make this up to you. You can go there because people who have pets, they have to buy insulin for the dogs that have diabetes.
No way.
You can buy insulin over the counter for $25. If you go through your insurance and buy it for yourself, it's $1,000. Now, when you buy it, you get your insurance covers the most of it, and you're still paying. You're paying like $79 is what I believe it is per jar. Whereas if you buy it for your dog over the counter, you can buy it for $25. Tell me that's not corrupt.
Did we not literally have a conversation about like vets?
I can't make it up. Go to Walmart and buy some insulin for your dogs. Even if you don't need it, give it to the next guy who has diabetes.
We were talking one night. Was it me and you, or what? You know what? No, I might have been with John. I think me and John were talking. Yeah, it was John for sure because I remember where we were. But we were talking one night, and I kind of like you said about your wife. I was like, I understand the concept of medical care like being available to people because I'm like, we're not paying for the police. We're not paying for the fire department. I wish there was a way that we just weren't paying for medical. Like they're emergency services. They're there. But like you said, there's no practical way to do it. But that's why I said, I'm like, but at the same time, I'm like, some of these vets are doing really similar stuff for animals for not nearly the same. Don't get me wrong. It's expensive. We have pets, it gets expensive, but like, man, it kills me when you pull up like police and firefighters are not pulling up in Maseratis like doctors are and stuff. I'm like, again, I mean, it's a private practice. I guess there's not much you can do about it, but and that's just an area where I'm not steadfast. I'm not educated enough to be steadfast one way or the other.
I mean, we're not getting into the technical of it or the actual numbers. Now, if we wanted to get into the actual numbers, the average doctor is in the office here in the United States for 4 minutes. The average doctor is 4 minutes. Right. You know how much a medical assistant gets paid? A medical assistant gets paid anywhere from $12 to $17 an hour, the average. Now, 80% of all medical costs are medical billing and coding. So someone who sends the bill to the insurance sends it back, the medical biller and coder sends it to your house. That's 80% of your cost for your entire visit is in that.
Is administrative stuff like that?
Is administrative stuff. And the doctor gets paid the majority of it. So who's really at fault here? The American people, because we've allowed this to happen. We've allowed these people to take big pharmaceutical companies, big tech, all these people and be like, oh, let's merge them together and let's make this powerhouse that can control everybody.
The only thing that sucks is it's one of the few things that you can't like for example, I'll get pissed at social media, but I'm also guilty. Yeah. If you're reading, Tommy says, I want to be able to do meth legally.
Oh, I thought that's what it said. And I was like, there's no way it actually says that.
Thank you, Tommy. No, it's one of those things. So, for example, like I said something earlier, like I can't stand some of the censorship on Facebook, and I posted something this week. I got temporarily banned from Facebook and then unbanned because I challenged it, and it didn't used to, and it's happened twice in the last month. So I'll take that. Sure, coincidence.
Well, you're probably gonna keep getting banned.
But anyway, so as much as
no, it's on the back of my bag.
Yeah, I don't know why it felt like my dog on me.
Guys. He kicked over the bag.
Yeah, so as much as I'm against some of the social media stuff, I always have to admit to myself, like, I'm on there every day, though. Like, it doesn't upset me that much because I'm there.
Exactly.
But that's the thing is no matter how pissed you get, I mean, people kind of need the medical system, and that's why it's kind of one of those tough catch-22 situations because you can't, boycott your doctor. I mean, I guess you could.
You could.
But, man, it would be rough. I know it's hard for a lot of people.
And so people are really, people are like, whoa, Obamacare is so great, all this stuff. They always want to push for, if we if we say that we're not going to have Medicaid, right? There's going to be 1 million people that are off Medicaid. Guess what? I hate to say it, but like that's not my problem. If we make healthcare cheaper in general, where it costs you $5 to get stitches or $100 to get a prescription with your service as well. Like, let's say you get an X-ray, you have a broken leg. You got an X-ray, you got seen by a doctor, you got prescribed a pain reliever, right? And it costs you $100. That's not that bad.
Yeah, no, that's.
If you go through insurance and it costs you $200 copay and the insurance paid $10,000, it's ridiculous.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So,
It's a lot like schooling, I think.
So
it's because it gets paid for, it just gets
if
astronomical.
we lower the cost of healthcare in general, the American people win because more people can afford it.
Right.
Even if you have to work the corner for a day and make $10 so you can go get an X-ray, that's way better.
It's the second time working the corners come up.
Hey, sometimes it happens. It happens.
Rachel Reed on Facebook here says the problem with that insulin is that it's not fast acting. Someone who is a severe diabetic is dosed higher would unfortunately not be able to utilize that and still has to pay an arm and a leg for a script. I worked in pharmacy for multiple months in a row and would have elderly customers spending $500 plus on a 1 month's prescription for something as simple as insulin or blood thinners. It's sad.
Well, hey, Rachel, this is what I got to say to you. That's your fault for charging them. You should have rang them up and just comped it. You know what I'm saying? Like, hey, what happens if you accidentally slide it under the table? Like, these people shouldn't be paying that much for insulin. I agree with it.
Right. Yeah.
And
No.
my grandma had diabetes. My aunt has diabetes. Right. My grandma passed away on New Year's last year. Right. But the problem is they're paying way too much.
Yeah.
And the only way to cut that cost is to cut medical costs and make it cheaper for everyone to be able to afford it.
Right.
So if you buy it for your dog you can afford insulin for, but your grandparents you can't. So that being said, go and buy insulin over the counter for your dogs.
Right. And I guess what she's saying is if it's different, I don't know what the actual cost is to make it fast acting or whatever. And of course, don't get fired doing anything like that. But it's it is sad. I mean, that's another one of those points where, like I said, a lot of times I don't know what to fix. Like we talk about it here. We're casual, dude. We don't get super political. It's anyone who acts like they have the answers to every topic.
They don't.
I
don't have the answers to 99% of them. I just make them up on the spot. No, I'm just kidding. But like I watched your guys' Kyle Rittenhouse one, and I was like, well, I see some of your points, but the majority of them I would, beg to differ with.
Sure. Yeah.
So with that being said, nobody has the answers, but there's ways around it. Like,
right.
If you come in and say you need insulin, and I scan the thing, and I'm like $500. Kind of sucks. Guess what? Employee discount. Bam. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's other ways. Like,
well,
am I going to get fired? I have to go work at a different pharmacy. I have to go do something else. Like,
ideally,
we're ripping them off anyway. So why should I be a part of corruption?
Right. Well, I mean, yeah, it sucks to be, and I've seen people leave jobs like that because they're some columnist, I don't remember their name or what publication, so it's really not a good example. But somebody just left some big publication for the same reason. She's like, I can't sell what we're posting anymore. This is screwed up. And what sucks is at the end of the day, unless a lot of people do that, it really doesn't make that big a difference most of the time. But I think a lot of people do sympathize for it. Nobody should be paying that for their medicine. I mean,
absolutely not. What's that big one right there?
That was the one about the
okay.
prescription there. Chase here says I posted a pic of my son playing with a water gun and they kicked me off for a week. And then me off. Yeah. But good Lord, are you serious?
There's no way that's true. I mean, I don't know. Hey, I wouldn't be surprised. But
hopefully it's for something else. Yeah, that's God
awesome.
Almighty, dude. Some of the, like I said, I don't know. So that's another thing, being pretty conservative / libertarian, small L, that people talk about is, like, well, it's a private company. They can ban you for what they want. I'm like, I guess, but they shouldn't get the protection that they get. That's where it gets screwed, is it?
They get the 230, Section 230 protection, which
that's where it gets screwed.
It's all coming to bite a lot of people in the ass. It is. And I promise that this year, you don't have to vote for me. I don't care if people, if people want to vote for me, great. If they don't want to vote for me, I'm fine with that too. but one way or another, it's coming, and a lot of people are going to get burned.
Yeah,
Stock market, housing market, used car market, you're going to get burned come this year. Come November, I hope you've already sold out of your whatever you have, because if not, you're going to get burned real hard. Especially when Trump becomes Speaker of the House.
That would be wild. Just a different position. Like,
yeah, well, there's some insider deals getting made right now.
Good Lord. The oh yeah, the 230, that's another thing that I really wish had been brought up when the right side of things had power, but it never did. But I think it's like you were talking earlier, people have such short memories. That became such a topic, and it's like, man, if they get power again, they really need to do something. The stories kind of died down. It's almost like if they take power, is it still going to be a priority?
No, it's not, because Republicans have no agenda.
Right.
There is nothing. If they win the House, there is not one Republican in office currently that has any agenda. We're going to fix this. No, you guys have no idea. If we win the House, guess what? We're going to sit there and be like, oh man, what do? We repeal whatever Biden did. Because we don't need to repeal that. What we need to do is we need to fix it. It's the same thing with Trump. Democrats got office, but they had an agenda. We need to fix what was wrong. We don't need to, appeal everything or repeal everything and cause a big stir.
Sitting there smirking just because I saw Chase's. I like this. I'm done with my free trial of socialism.
Oh yeah, there you go, Chase.
Rachel Reed is back here. She says, manufacturers sometimes offer coupons online, and I would go on there and get customers free scripts when I was able, but Walmart pharmacies would threaten to write us up when catching us doing that for customers.
That's so bizarre.
I told you.
For helping a customer take advantage of a coupon that already exists.
Yep.
God.
I'm telling you, big pharmaceutical companies, that's why Ann Wagner is so loved with the big pharmaceutical companies. She got $1.7 million last year from Big Pharma. And ironically, Big Pharma also got the contract to give out the COVID vaccines.
What's so funny is that Big Pharma was an enemy, like, for Sanders.
Yes.
And like that whole side of things. And now it's like,
hey, and I tell you, Sanders has some great ideas. Some of them are just not like physically possible.
Right.
It's impossible to create these ideas, but he has a lot of good ideas. In theory, socialism and a lot of those things sound great.
right.
Well, guess what? In reality,
minus
it's not
the freedom,
possible. Yeah.
The fiscally, it sounds great. I think I even told you guys after when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, I was like, I think I agree with him more than I do the Pelosi Biden type of person. Like, he seems to genuinely want better things. It's just unrealistic.
And Joe Rogan's a hero too.
Oh, for sure.
He literally got Elon Musk to smoke weed. if anyone's a hero in this country, it's definitely Joe Rogan.
Legend for sure. Just to finish her, said money-hungry companies like Walmart and the drug manufacturers themselves seem to be the root of the evil.
We've been online for 2 hours.
Oh yeah, we can wrap up whenever you're ready to go. But no, it is kind of gross.
Yeah,
how much
kind of getting old too, or not kind of getting old, but kind of getting
late.
late. Sorry, I didn't mean old guys. I'd be like, I heard him say old.
Shit.
We're old now. But no, I tell you, these companies, they're pushing every nickel and dime, and the only way it's going to stop is if we elect America. And I say America first, not as in Trump America first,
right,
but people who care about this country and its constituents before George Soros and all the rest of the people up there in Washington's money. So with that being said, we have to vote America First candidates. And America First candidates, if you go to the AmericaFirstPAC.org, you'll find the most America First candidates in your state. And those are the people that we need to push. We need people, and I say that not only because I just got added to the America First PAC, but because these are other candidates that are willing to sacrifice their name, their face, their reputation to protect the Constitution. Nothing else. We have no agenda but the Constitution. That's our agenda. We talked about that on one of our first, it was like our second or third podcast on here. Is obviously it's not in a public office, but we talk about I'm like, we are not big YouTubers by any means, and have no intention of being. I'm like, even the relatively small, but even the risk we take for future jobs or anything to sit here and put all our opinions out on the air and just like, well, you're not
here's everything
hired.
I think.
I just
right. So I'm like, but even that is purely just to get our ideas out there and get people talking and stuff like that. And I think that's what it takes. And like I said, not to we're sacrificing too by turning a camera on, but anything that gets people talking, like I said, I know a lot of people really don't like to get political, and it's like looked at as like a bad thing, which reminds me, that's what's so funny is that the America First has become such I'm like, why is it a bad catchphrase? Like, it seems like a pretty good
it's the
value.
It's the way that the country's heading, and it's up to us to change that.
Yeah.
And not us as in me, you, and Corey, but like us as a whole.
Yeah.
We have to stand together and say, hey, like, do we want our kids to have to fight the same devil as we are? Like, let's fix this now.
But even worse, because it keeps advancing. That's what
it does. It progresses every year. It changes. It's the next thing. How far are we willing to go? When taxes are 60%,
right?
When our kids have to get every vaccine on the sewn, where they have to wear a mask, like they get a mask sewn to their face, is that when we say, oh, enough's enough?
That's like I was talking about earlier, which like I said, 15, 20, 30 years from now, like at what point is it like it seems like it's exponentially increasing and getting worse and worse. And
every year.
Yeah, this really needs to stop. So the last question I had for you, it seems like the veteran stuff is pretty big to you, but I know Joe Rogan's asked guests before, but say you have a magic wand, a magic button, whatever you want it to be, you get to press, and you don't have to worry about the logistics or how it gets done or anything. You get one thing, how you want it. What would it be?
The one thing that I would do if I could have it, and you want the truth here.
For sure. No, lay it on.
There's one thing that I can do without any repercussions. Issue a prison sentence to Hillary Clinton. And I say that for Benghazi because she's corrupt. And that whole system in Benghazi in 2012 happened. And I promise you, when I run for office, that's one of the questions I'm getting answered. I'm getting answered it.
I thank you, because that's one of the things that we've talked about before. People just have completely wiped that under.
You talk about short-term memory.
They forget about a September 11, 2012 in Libya, or Benghazi, Libya. I don't forget about it.
Yeah.
I don't forget about the 6 people who were lost. I don't forget about the U.S. ambassador who was lost. And I'm going to get answers to it. And I promise you, come this year in November, these answers are going to become reality, because I'm going to be calling subpoenas on the Hillary Clinton and the Clinton Foundation for Benghazi. So when you ask if there's anything I can do in this entire world, if there's anything I can do in this entire world with a magic button, Hillary Clinton.
I guess Chase agrees here too. He sends
well, yes.
He sends a
Hillary Clinton's going to prison. I promise you that.
You're like, everything else we can get done the old-fashioned way, but
everything else we have a legal system to balance. But Clinton's going to prison, and all of her cronies are too.
It's like, I'm not wasting the button on anything else.
Some people say it's crazy, but it's not crazy. I hear from these people. I've seen what happened in Libya, right? I know that there was a deal. You can't tell me. So, I mean, if we're not going to, call me back for another Libya podcast. Please call me back and ask me to come to a Libya podcast. I'll give you guys some damning information against Clinton.
We'll do it again, dude, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's like you said, we'll dive into it more, but it's not just the 6 people that were killed then too. There was more.
More than a movie. It's more than a book, and there's a lot of. Unless you've spent the 700 hours of time.
Rally Runner says Wesley did not kill himself.
That's true, man. That's true. But unless you actually listen to the 700 hours of testimonies, then you're never gonna get the truth. But nobody has 700 hours except for someone like myself who's retired to sit there and listen to the testimonies. And I'll tell you, there's a lot of questions to be answered, and the only way that you're going to answer those questions is to have someone in Washington who's willing to ask those questions. Same with the January 6th, the Capitol riots and everything else. Democrats can say, "Oh, we're getting the answers. It was Trump." That's not an answer,
right?
How was it Trump?
Right, exactly.
He said we're going to fight like hell. Well, guess what? I could say that too. So it's just, I tell you. You've probably seen the meme. It's like, oh, I've had sex that's worse than the January 6th.
More violent, yeah.
Yeah, more violent than the January 6th insurrection. So let me tell you, I don't believe anything they have to say. And we need to have a podcast specifically on Benghazi, because I got a lot to say about that.
Hell yeah.
If I could use a magic button right here, it would be Hillary Clinton goes to prison for Benghazi, because she knows exactly what happened. She even funded the training of the people who caused Benghazi.
I'd love to hear more about
We
it.
gotta do another
Damn.
episode.
Yeah, we'll have to do
We
it
have
again
to,
for sure.
specifically a Benghazi one, and I'll be more than willing to do that because I also wrote like a paper because I'm in law school too, right? At
Right.
American Military University. I wrote a paper specifically on Benghazi addressing that, stating how the State Department, which Hillary Clinton was in charge of
Right.
at the time, funded a military unit to go and train the Benghazi National Guard. Right, there was over 300 people trained. However, 260 people attacked a top secret black ops base in Libya, which makes no sense because anyone who knows anything about a black ops base or a top secret anything knows you're not going to notice. You know, like there could be a black
Right.
ops base under your house and you're not going to know about it never.
That's what makes it Black Ops. Yeah.
That's exactly. So to sit here and tell me that they magically found it in the middle of, we'll get into it, guys. We'll have to have another follow-up.
Yeah, just knocking out a few more here. Chase says, we the people want transparency. Agree 100%.
Absolutely.
I think more than anything else. Tommy, everyone always says these things, but things will become reality, but I hope. I can't read, but I really hope you do it for real.
Tom, that's what I'm hoping for, man. I mean, that's all you can do is you can hope for it, and I can sit here and tell you honestly what I want to do, but you got to have the backing, and I don't have the backing, but I have the people, and the people's. I always say that the people's voice is my voice. So if the people want to know what happened at Benghazi, the people actually want to know. They will stand beside me and they will say, "We want to know."
Well, Chase here says Wesley needs a part 2. I definitely tune in.
Yes.
So
Benghazi 2012. That's what we're going to talk about next.
I'm down. All right, and then we
Wesley
already posted
did
it,
not-
but
yeah,
I just want to reiterate.
Exactly.
So regardless of what the VA says, you're
Yeah,
feeling
I definitely
good.
didn't kill
Okay.
myself. And I can't trust any of them. But,
All right, guys. Thanks everyone for watching. Like I said, this is a little different show than we normally do. That we've done live shows, and the Unsuppressed is normally a pre-recorded thing, but we wanted to be able to get the questions on here. So
Definitely.
so yeah, we appreciate
my
it.
phone died, so if you're watching on my channel, make sure you subscribe to their channel so you can see the rest of it. Because I also don't know how I'm going to get home after this.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching. We'll be back.
Awesome.